what's up, guys, and welcome to the High Fidelity TV podcast. This is a special episode. We're going to be talking about the 2001 film Ghost World by Terry Zwigoff, starring, I was about to say Enid, starring Thora Birch, Scarlett Johansson, Steve Buscemi, among other great character actors. You guys might be wondering why we're doing another High Fidelity TV podcast. High Fidelity was canceled months ago, but we decided to maybe do a couple special episodes talking about kind of record related movies. Not even just record related, but movies that have records in them or like maybe take place in a record store, stuff like that. And we thought Ghost World was right up the High Fidelity alleyway. So we decided to talk about Ghost World, and it's almost the 20th anniversary of Ghost World next year. So how old do you feel there, right? So I am your host, Joseph No, and I'm here with, as usual, with my co-host, Edwin Lee. How you doing, Edwin?
Doing great. Good to be back talking about movies.
Absolutely. So you and I, this is one of the films we talked about where, like, besides High Fidelity, the film from 2000, this is the film that we endlessly quote. And we have, like, so much back knowledge of trivia and quotes and what have you of this film, as it is a staple, a mainstay in our lives. So, Edwin, talk about your experiences with Ghost World. How did you get into it? And why is it your favorite movie? One of your favorite movies, anyway.
I don't remember how I first heard about it. I was not aware of the comic, the original source material, but I must have read a review or something, but something drew my attention where I had a good feeling that this would be my kind of movie. I might have seen the trailer for it at the local, indie movie theater. So I remember going to see it by myself on a Friday night at the Lido Theater down in Newport. And I was, a lonely, sensitive indie kid, well, probably indie young adult at that point. And I knew from the get-go that this was going to be a special movie for me. I felt like I found characters and people that I could identify with on different levels, whether it was their taste in music or their sense of humor or just how they felt like they couldn't relate to so much of mainstream modern American culture.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I found my tribe, and it was... I saw the movie as, I don't know, kind of like a secret jewel that I was obsessed with.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw the movie, I was like, anything Ghost World related, I was trying to absorb, but also very protective about, like, if you knew and liked the movie, then there was, like, an instant bond between me and that person. But if you you didn't get it, or you didn't like it, then it was kind of a litmus test. So I was very protective of that movie, because I knew it didn't seem like it was a movie that everyone would get or everyone would like, and which made me like it even more.
Right. Well said there, Edwin. Before I get into my thoughts on my intro of the film, I forgot to plug our website, highfidelitytv.wordpress.com, and email us at highfidelitytvpodcast@gmail.com. This show, we're going to have an intro section right here. We're going to have a trivia section, and then we're going to talk about the movie. There's going to be spoilers when we talk about the movie scene by scene, so just want to get that out of the way. We haven't podcasted in a while, so our structure is all over the place. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, Edwin, I completely agree with how you view this film. It is definitely one of those kind of treasure gems that you don't see a lot of, and that's um, very special to me as well. I don't remember how I found out about the movie. I definitely didn't see it in theaters. I was about 18, 19 at the time it came out, and I was going to see, like blockbuster movies like The Matrix and Star Wars, and I think like she's all that, very commercial, aesthetic kind of movies. Although movies like this were on my radar later when I got into like indie films,
Mm-hmm.
specifically like Steven Soderbergh or Todd Solondz, who is another filmmaker that kind of echoes this underground comic genre. But anyway, I think I remember seeing it like at my local video rentals place, and I just was browsing, the titles, the DVDs, and it was, eye catching. These two girls, the girl with the Raptor shirt, and these two nerdy girls, and I saw like Steve Buscemi on it. I was like, Ghost World sounded cool, and it was just one of those things that I just like sheer luck. I just picked it up, rented it because I just wanted a different movie to watch, and um, I saw it, and I didn't really get it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like again, the sensibilities didn't really line up to how I was back then. I was kind of a very um, commercialized, film cinephile, I guess you could say. Um, but later on, uh, yeah, I completely kind of absorbed all of the characters. Let me wait till this plane or helicopter passes by. It's making a lot of noise. But yeah, I completely absorbed. I was a very impressionable youth, so everything I absorbed, I kind of echoed and imitated, and their sensibilities, the character sensibilities, especially like Seymour's misanthropic, misfit, antisocial character, like really resonated with me. It was around the time I got into like Seinfeld as well, so like Seinfeld also kind of expresses that sentiment of like, we hate people, and this anti-commercial, anti-consumerist, materialist message
Yeah.
that Ghost World portrays really like um, got to me as well. I really kind of echoed that. I was becoming like anti-pop. I was becoming like anti-commercial, and really became something that was intimate to me. Like you said, like um, any of my friends who got the movie, as soon as I like started liking the movie, I started sharing it to my friends, and whoever liked it, like I was like, okay, you're cool. But if not, like I don't know if we could be friends, kind of thing. So yeah, and also it was a movie to me that I know I'm going a little long here, but back then when you used to have like a movie that you used to watch over and over on VHS for whatever reason, maybe you had limited amounts of movies. You had that it was on a dub of another movie you like, so you just let it play or whatever.
Yeah.
It was one of those movies for me. I had the DVD. I bought the DVD at Best Buy because I remember when I rented it, I loved it so much. I just went out and bought it, and I loved the Gun the Gundam video so much too. And I rewatched that on the special edition over and over. So yeah, it's a special place in my heart. Um, I'd never seen anything like it. Is both tragic and comic, and it's definitely one of the first like effective dramedies I've seen. Um, Nowadays that term is very familiar with a lot of. God damn it, fucking helicopter! How many? Is there like a APB out on somebody right now? Okay, uh, but yeah. What was I saying?
That the term dramedy
Yeah,
gets
yeah, yeah.
is commonplace these
Yeah,
days,
sure, sure.
whereas
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But back then it was completely groundbreaking,
yeah.
and it opened up a whole new world for me for underground comics. I was aware of like Marvel comics, DC, all that stuff, and then it made me sought out Daniel Klaus, and I became a huge Daniel Klaus fan. I went to Comic-Con 2006 just to get his autograph and talk to him and meet him. And back then,
Were you successful in doing all those things? You met
yes,
him.
yes. Well, his panel, interesting enough, there's nobody in it. I mean, '06, he wasn't that well known. I mean, Ghost World was not a huge phenomenon, but a fairly successful
Yeah.
phenomenon. It reached cult status, so it wasn't like completely empty. Actually, you know what? Come to think of it, it was filled. He had an anecdote that he mentioned like a few years before Ghost World the movie came out. The
Yeah.
panel was full of was nobody there but
Yeah.
Klingons, and people dressed as Klingons anyway. Not real.
Yeah.
Their Klingons don't exist, but no, but and they were there because they were waiting for the next panel of Star Trek.
Yeah, they wanted to get a good seat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a joke, but he maybe embellished that a bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting to meet him. I got my David Boring graphic novel signed, and yeah, Ghost World changed my life. It's safe to say that it's become a huge staple in both of our lives. It sounds like so.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so it's obviously so easy to talk about when we agreed to talk about. I was like, hey, this is gonna be. I don't even have to research it. We just talk about how we feel about it, and we have strong feelings about it. So, shall we get into our trivia section before we go any
Yes,
further?
I would love to.
Awesome. Would you like to go first?
Sure.
All right.
I tried to mix up some. Well, I guess I tried to make it more challenging because I know how big of a fan you are. I didn't want to just insult your intelligence by tossing you a bunch of.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Uh,
Same here. I mean,
hanging curves.
yeah.
All right, so number one, the high school graduation scene. There's a banner that's congratulating, the graduates of that year. Name one of the two corporate sponsors listed on that high school graduation banner.
I got this wrong already. But before I wanted to mention before the trivia, we continue it. The stakes we forgot to mention. Whoever wins, I believe we agreed before, will choose the next film to talk about on our podcast.
Awesome.
Does that sound good to you,
that.
Edwin?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, cool. So we both have 10 trivia questions, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
cool. I don't know. So I'm just gonna go out on a limb, and it was better to just guess. You said sponsors?
Yes, there's like two corporate sponsors listed on this high school banner. Maybe three, but
can you give me a hint?
Give you a hint. Well, one motif running throughout this entire movie is kind of like the grotesqueness of modern American culture, how it's lowbrow and, like there's a lot of like ugly eating in this movie. And obesity and this and that, so it kind of, I guess, fits in that theme. I'm sure it was very intentional. So they're both related to food.
Okay. I probably can't ask you for that. That'll be too much. Okay. Well,
you want the answer? You want the answer then?
No. I'm just gonna. I'll guess Cook's Chicken.
Oh, and these are actual.
Oh, they're actual. Okay.
That exist.
Well, Cook actually was, but.
Oh, okay.
But obviously that wasn't one of them since you. Let's see. I'm just gonna say United Artists since they distributed the film. No.
Good. It's one was Tropicana, like Tropicana orange juice. The other one was Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh yeah, yeah. United Artists is not a food. I'm so stupid. Oh. Oh well.
Do you want to go?
No. I wouldn't have got that anyway. So that's one miss. That's fine.
Do you want me to do 10 in a row, or do you want to go 1 and 1?
Let's just do 10 in a row.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Number 2. What is the name of the restaurant where Enid sees the quote-unquote Satanists and sketches them?
Okay. See, this is tough because last night, when we when I rewatched the movie, I just watched the commentary and I was like taking notes and looking down a lot. So, uh, I know they talked about it, and I know in the comic it's angels, but
Yes, yeah,
they couldn't, they
they do
couldn't get
change
the
it.
well, they filmed at a real location. So, damn it, I'm not gonna get this either.
It's okay.
Uh, and I know it's two words.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say Tom's Diner.
Not a bad guess. It's a Quality Cafe.
Ugh.
Quality
Okay.
Cafe. All right, number 3. What is the name of the stand-up comic that Enid and
Oh,
Rebecca watch on TV?
this is one of my trivia questions.
Oh,
Damn
okay.
it. So yeah, Joey McCobb.
Joey
I have to change
McCobb.
that. Okay.
Okay. When number 4, when we first meet Doug, the dude with the awesome mullet and nunchucks at the sidewinder, what does he purchase? So when we first see
Oh,
Doug,
first see him.
what does he purchase?
All of the items or just one?
One's fine.
Okay. Well, I know he buys a beverage. I believe it's a beer, and he buys some beef jerky, and he's just like, I'm hungry enough to chew the crotch off a rag doll.
Yeah, exactly. He buys a big 40
Okay, 40.
of something, either beer or malt liquor or something, and
Uh-huh.
then some beef jerky.
Okay.
All right, so you got 2 out of 4.
Do I get
Pretty
extra
good so
points
far. Good stuff.
for quoting him as well?
I will give you some bonus kudos for that. Number 5. What is the name of the video art piece that the art teacher Roberta Allsworth shows to her class on the first day of the summer school art class?
Father, mother, father.
I'll give you half a point. That was close.
What was the full title?
Mirror, father,
Oh,
mirror.
mirror, father, mirror. That's
But
it.
you were on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did I miss that? It's so repetitive.
Mirror, father. Yeah.
Or like pretentious art video.
So you've got, okay, 2.5 out of 5. Number 6. What is the name of the video store that Enid and Rebecca go to look for a video?
Masterpiece Video.
Yes. Nice. You are on the streak here. Number 7. After losing her job at the movie theater, Enid tries to make some money by having a yard sale or like a rummage sale.
Oh no, this is another one.
What is the name of the doll
this is one
that
of
a guy
mine.
wants to buy, but Enid changes her mind about selling?
Okay, I could be wrong, but because because I read the comic, and in the comic it's Goofy Gus.
Yeah, Goofy Gus. Same.
Okay, so they did adapt that. That's.
They did keep that.
I gotta change that question too. Damn it.
Oh, did you write that? Okay.
Yeah.
Number 8. When Dana has a first date with Seymour at his place, she wants to dance with Seymour when she hears what song?
Oh well, is it a
Or
real?
name the artist or song.
Or well, the lyric of the song I remember, but
Yeah.
it could be the name of the song.
Yeah.
Solid as a Rock.
Yeah, Solid as a Rock.
Is it a real song?
Yeah, it's by Ashford and Simpson. Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess there's our first music connection, saying that we're on the High Fidelity.
Uh-huh.
So number 9, what is Enid's number 1 fantasy that she reveals to Seymour? And you can paraphrase it. It doesn't have to be the exact wording.
To move to another town and be somebody else?
Yeah, basically, yeah, to just disappear.
Okay, yeah.
People would never see her again. Nice.
How many questions do we have?
I have one left.
Oh, man,
You've
okay.
been rocking.
Awesome.
Really. All right, number 10. When Enid is packing up to move in with Rebecca, she puts on a 45. What song does she play off of that 45. So
Okay,
this is
they
like
mentioned
towards
this
the
in
end
the
of the movie.
comic as well. They even it's kind of like a minor subplot where they're
Yeah.
looking for the record at various record stores. I have to sing it in my head, so bear with me.
Yeah, no problem.
A smile and a ribbon.
Yes, A
Yeah,
Smile in a Ribbon by
a smile
Patience
is
and Prudence.
something like that. Yeah, they even have the lyrics like verbatim in the comic. So like
Nice.
when the lyrics are played out with the musical notes in the comic, I'm kind of singing along in my head already because I remember that song in the movie as well. So very accurate.
Awesome. You got 7.5 out of 10. Very nice.
Awesome, man.
That's going to be hard to beat.
Okay. I gotta come up with a very quick alternate question because you have had at least two or three
Okay, no problem.
similar ones to yours. So, well, let me ask you the first one so you can.
Sure,
So, wait,
sure.
how much did I get?
You got 7.5 out of 10.
Okay. What
So
was?
you got a half question for the. I gave you half for that mirror, father, mirror.
Thank you so much. Okay. Let me. Okay, so the first question. What names did Enid and Rebecca autograph their letter left on Josh's door?
Is one of them Tiffany?
Yes.
Um, and the other one is Amber?
Yes. Good job. Ding ding
Okay.
ding. Yes. Okay.
All right.
Um. All right. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get all of these. All right. Oh, this is kind of hard. What is the band's name referenced in one of the records? I wrote this really poorly. What is the band's name referenced in one of the records Enid asks about at Seymour's garage sale?
Yeah, it's like Robert Crumb and some band that Terry Zwigoff was in, but I
Just
don't.
throw out a name and his.
Yeah, I didn't pay enough
Okay,
attention
I'll
to
give
that
you
band.
half for that.
Okay,
It's
okay,
his cheap suit serenaders.
okay.
Yeah, that was the one that like she's like, is this any good? And he's like, nah, that one's not so good.
Yeah.
So he's like dissing Robert Crumb right there. It's so funny. All right, number three. Kind of these next two questions are kind of comic related, so maybe a little
Okay.
difficult. But the trivia question wheelchair guy
Yes.
in the cafe is based on what Daniel Klaus comic? It's a one shot too. It's
Um, Pussy?
close. That's not a bad
No.
guess actually. It's
Okay.
a Feldman.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, you probably get this one. Another comic reference.
Okay.
The tampon in the teacup is based
Yes.
on what other Daniel Klaus comic?
Art School Confidential?
Yeah. Good job. So you got 2.5
Okay.
so far. John Ho is a scene from what movie? You can get this.
You just mentioned it, like Gangnam or
Yeah, Gumnam.
something.
Yeah,
Okay.
Gumnam. Or I don't know how. I'm sorry if we were
Yeah,
butchering this
I'm definitely
pronunciation.
butchering it.
But yeah, it's yeah. 3.5. Okay. What record is playing when Seymour is blowing out his birthday cupcake? He mentions it in the movie. If you could just mention the artist, you don't have to mention the title of the song.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
It's like him and Enid
God.
are talking about how like life and how
Yeah.
that's why
Oh.
this record will never be as popular because such and such. And he's just like going on and on about it.
Yeah, it's a guy's name.
I'll give you a hint. It's Latin of Latin descent.
Yeah, shoot. Um, the first name start with an E?
No.
No.
I'll give you the first letter. L.
L. Louis something?
No.
Louis,
Good guess, though.
Okay.
Good guess.
I give up. I
Okay.
don't want to.
Lionel Belasco.
Lionel Velasco.
Yeah, he says like
yeah.
this Lionel Belasco record.
Yeah.
Mentions that. Okay. That was pretty tough, actually. So.
No, I like.
Sorry about that. You like the challenge?
No, this is good. I like it.
Okay, this one's pretty easy. So how much do you have? So 4.5. Okay. Yeah, you get the Gumnam. Who is? How much did I get?
You got 7.5 out of 10.
Okay. Who is the mutilator drawn by in the movie? Not who actually drew the mutilator outside the movie. The character in the character in the movie. Who drew the mutilator?
Was it Jeffrey?
No.
Philip. Philip? Oh,
yeah.
Philip. Oh, yeah. Okay. Jeffrey was the other kid with like the mobile and
maybe
Roberta like smashes it.
Oh yeah. And then when she hugs him,
or
you can remember because when she's like, well, this must be a work of Philip.
Oh, I thought this was about your dad or something.
Yeah. That's kind of tough.
No, these are great.
Yeah. You probably get this one. What is the name of the XXX adult store that they visit?
Is it Anthony's? No. Anthony's?
Yeah.
Okay.
5.5. You can tie with these next two questions.
Okay,
so.
I need to.
All right. Yeah, this might be a little tough, but this is one of the questions I made up on a whim because.
Yeah, no problem. Lay it on.
This was supposed to be the Joey Macabre question, but what is another Daniel Klaus adaptation besides Ghost World and Art School Confidential? The other movie. It was more recent. It was made after Art School Confidential, maybe in like the 2010s. Maybe even like 2017.
And
it was kind of an indie, and I'll give you a huge hint. It was stars Woody Harrelson. I'll give you another hint. It's just the name of that character.
I don't know.
Okay, it's Wilson. Yeah,
okay.
that might be. You know what? Let me come up with another one because.
No. That was fair.
Because it's not really Ghost World related. It's.
No, that's okay. I don't mind. It's okay.
Okay. All right.
And
so
then you had one more.
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
What is the radio station that Seymour and Enid are listening to on the way to the live show? And he's like, this voice is so shrill and piercing. It feels like it's jabbing you in the face.
Yeah, oh gosh. Does it start with KX something?
Yes.
KX JZ? I don't know. KX.
Yeah, it's tough. It's actually KFTO.
Oh, KFTO. Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, KFO coming at you. He's like, that voice is so shrill and piercing.
Why does he have to sound so angry or whatever?
He's like, this is why I don't listen to the radio anymore. All right, good job, man. 5.5. It looks like.
Very good. So I'm looking forward to what movie you'll pick. But good job.
Yeah, thank you, man. Great questions. And it was fun. It's always fun doing trivia with you because you're the trivia king. So it's always nice to win one against one of the trivia masters. All right, so we just get into the recap.
Yes.
Hey, what you think you're doing? Shut up that damn noise! Rock and roll, baby. Freedom of speech.
That guy rules.
They can't believe we made it.
We graduated high school. How totally amazing.
I can't help but feel I had some small part in how you turned out.
Sometimes I think I might be going crazy from sexual frustration.
You just hate every single guy on the face of the earth.
That's not true. I just hate all these extroverted, pseudo-bohemian losers.
You guys up for some reggae tonight?
Do you have any other old records besides these?
Seymour does.
Who does?
Oh, him. He's the man with the records.
What are we in slow motion here? Come on, what are you, hypnotized? Have some more kids, why don't you?
All right, so Ghost World is released in 2001. It was a black comedy film directed by Terry Zwigoff, like I mentioned before, written by Daniel Klaus and Terry Zwigoff, starring Thora Birch, Scarlett Johansson, Steve Buscemi, Brad Renfro, rest in peace, Elena Douglas, Terry Garr, uncredited, and Bob Balaban, all these great character actors. Based on the 1993-1997 comic book that was briefly, that had a run in his comic 8 Ball. And I have a short synopsis here I want to read from. After establishing his irreverent directorial style in the documentaries Louie Bluey and Crumb, Terry Zwigoff transitioned to fiction filmmaking in 2001 with Ghost World, an adaptation of Daniel Klaus's cult comic about a pair of teenage misfits, chronicling the post-graduation lives of high school best friends Enid and Rebecca. This acerbic comedy mines stingingly satirical humor from the absurdities of over-commercialized America, matching its dark ironies with a tender portrait of close relationships forged during the vulnerable years of adolescence. And I got this little bit from the Criterion piece, The Women of Ghost World, on working with Terry Zwigoff. If you go to the Criterion.com Ghost World page, there's like a bunch of there's about like 3 different essays that are in the Criterion booklet, so I highly recommend reading those pieces. So from here on out, there's going to be spoilers for Ghost World. So before we get into the complete recap, let me ask you yet again, Edwin, what'd you think of this film, watching it this time around, and just like in broad terms, and what'd you think of the film? What do you think about the film now?
Yeah, it's still as good as when I first saw it, when I was watching it to brush up on this episode. I was watching it even more closely, and so I was able to still pick up on some new nuances, new connections, new thematic things. So yeah, I enjoyed watching it again for sure.
It's like an old friend, right? That
that
you just having a cocktail with and just catching up on old times, and very familiar. It's like, hello again, old friend, right? When you watch it.
Yeah.
It's interesting for me. I mentioned to you off air, but I had to watch it. Well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to watch it with the commentary all the way, and I've never done that before. I usually don't like doing that, just because unless I'm really want to know how a lot of tidbits about the behind the scenes stuff, I usually never do that because it's a different vibe, and then watching it now, I'm taking notes. I'm not really paying attention to all the the nuances and the visuals, and you can't really hear the dialogue. I had the subtitles on, but it's not the same, right? It's not the same vibe that you get from watching the movie on its own. But it was interesting because it's pretty much like 2 misanthropes, just complaining at each other. Not complaining, but just like they're very like sardonic, their tone, and it's just like they're like almost complaining about everything. Like, for instance, like they're not really complaining about it, but they mentioned how like this this film has like no presence of cell phones or computers, aside from the Feldman when he opens up his like MacBook to, for the trivia thing. But like, yeah, they're just like, I love how this movie has no cell phones. There's just a bunch of two old guys like stuck in the past, and they're just like kind of reminiscing about stuff like that, and they're mentioning how like, when the neo-Nazi character John Ellis like pulls up the tape to give to Enid
Yeah.
in the cafe,
Yeah.
they're like, kids, this is what you call a videotape, stuff like that, and there's like they're mentioning how like this film like feels so dated. If you look at all of the technology and stuff like that. I mean, it was made in 2001. Like I said before, it's almost a 20-year-old film. So, but yeah, it's a different experience watching it with the commentary. But I've gotten a lot of notes here. I've written down almost 2 pages of hotel paper notes here. But
Well, to piggyback off what you were just saying, but there's something still timeless about the movie, even though it has been 20 years and times have changed. Because I feel like a young person who would relate to this movie and Enid's character, that they would still dress like Enid or have a collection of tapes like Enid shuffles through before she puts on that blues record that she got from Seymour. So I feel like even though we're in the cell phone age, kids or whoever who would relate to the characters in this movie would still live their life in similar ways. Tapes. There's people still collecting tapes and buying tapes and listening to tapes.
absolutely.
So there is something hard to relate to for some people, but still relatable in other ways. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think in some ways, like, this film was like the blueprint of social misfits and of the hipster. You know what I mean? Like, hipsters
Sure.
kind of hate everything. They hate everything pop. They're very anti-pop, anti-commercial. And this is like one of the first films. I mean, there was hipsters before this, I'm sure, but like the modern hipster was kind of born from this film, right? And it's really funny because you're right. It does speak to a lot of, alienated, disenfranchised youth. I have a friend named Mal. I met her playing Magic at Magic Night, Friday Night Magic, and she and I endlessly quote this film. The other day, she Snapchatted me a picture of she got the Skip James "Devil Got My Woman" record that she got from like Frankenstein. So she still loves the movie, and it really spoke to her. So yeah, I could totally tell, totally relate to the girls who feel connected to these two girls.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's get right into it. The
All
film
right.
opens up with the Gumnam song and video that Enid is watching on her videotape.
Yeah, and that opening title sequence, it's very interesting. You could see the movie's fascination and possibly Daniel Clowes and Terry Zweigoff's fascination with quirky characters. Like,
Yeah.
each window that the camera passes by, you see like really interesting characters doing interesting things. Like, there's a guy with a mullet with a really hairy back. There are these like slobby parents with this out of control kid that's like whacking something, and it's just this fascination with ordinary people who are interesting and quirky but grotesque in other ways. It's just
Yeah, it's
a very interesting opening.
Sure, absolutely. And I want to mention too that I've been reading the comic this week, so I'm going to be making a lot of comparisons to the comic. It's fresh in my head. And one of those things is that, yeah, this opening shot is very cinematic. It's a crane shot, and something that's different from the comic, because the comic is very kind of plain and very obviously the panels, so they can't move, but like it's not very dynamic. You know, like whatever he doesn't draw. Daniel Klaus is not the kind of uh, comic artist who draws like splash panels, like you know these crazy action oriented pieces in like superhero comics. But so it feels very kind of mundane, his panels. But I think he's doing that deliberately. But yeah, this is a great like mix up. Like this is a movie, you know. So it's like, hey, we're seeing this really great dynamic shot, and it like it dollies across like these rooms, the windows of these apartments, and then it finally to the end gets to Enid like dancing in her graduation robe or gown. So it already establishes when this is, like it's late May or early June. They're just she's graduating high school, and a great setup to just show her kind of sensibilities, right? That she loves old, kind of quirky, esoteric Bollywood music, and this is what she's into. This is her jive, right? This is her happening, and it freaks her out. So cool. And after that, anything else you want to mention? Oh, I wrote down that they were talking about Daniel Klaus and this Terry Zwigoff in the commentary. We were talking about how the origins of how they found the video for Gumnam, and he says that he had a 10th generation video copy, so they had to find the children of the original director to get the rights to actually play that in the video. So that's pretty cool. You have anything else to say about this opening, or should we get right into the next scene?
Yeah, just the music, especially the opening song. I was just so obsessed with the movie that I had to go out and get the soundtrack on CD.
Yeah.
And I was psyched that 2 record store days ago they released it, I believe, for the first time on vinyl, and so I had to go get that. And
yeah, and you played it. You played it at the bar for me. Well, not for me, but like you played it, and I was like, oh hey. I had to go take some pictures of that. Very cool. How much did you get that for?
It was probably like 20 something, I guess.
Was it a special color? It wasn't a special colored vinyl or anything like that?
It's I think it's just on black vinyl.
Okay.
From what I...
Very, very cool pickup. All right, we'll get right into the graduation ceremony. And, you know, this is something that's not in the comic. I believe we get like just one panel in the opening. It's almost like the opening credits of the comic where they just show like snapshots of what they're doing, and then they show one panel is a wordless panel of the 2 of them flipping off their high school.
Yeah.
So they expanded upon that completely. Another thing I really want to quickly say about the differences between the comic and the movie. It's obvious reading the comic now that Daniel Klaus didn't have a through line for this at all. He was just like very content writing like short stories, because he wrote this for like his 8-Ball magazine. He wrote it like not knowing that it was going to be compiled. He didn't even know if they're going to, you know, it's like an indie comic. He didn't know if they're going to get another issue, something like that. So he just wrote it like almost like stream of consciousness, not stream of consciousness, but you know, just almost like he improv'd it. So like there was really no through line. And then when they adapted it, it's obvious that, you know, Terry Zwigoff came in and they rearranged a lot of the pieces. They made a lot of economical choices, like they combined characters into one to make it suit a 2-hour movie, you know. So, and then obviously like Seymour is like the Terry Zwigoff stand-in. He's like this like misanthropic guy into blues and collecting 78s, and so yeah, that was an interesting tidbit I just wanted to quickly mention. But what did you think of this opening scene where we finally meet our 2 characters?
I think it establishes the characters and the theme from the very beginning, where you clearly understand the direction and the heart of the movie. I see the movie as basically a big eye roll to American life and American culture, like literally, because Enid does a lot of eye rolling, but figuratively as well. Like a lot of things that are just so commonplace, they're critiqued mercilessly a lot of times in this movie, and
That's a good word.
The sappy sob story of the girl in the wheelchair, the whole, a lot of the audience are just eating this girl's story up of how she was in a car accident, but the look on Enid's face and Rebecca's face, they're just not having it. They're not buying into this sappy sob story, and then they bring the trio of rappers. It was meant to be a parody. I actually thought it was cool, but I get what they're going for. How ridiculous,
rap music is. I'm pretty sure Terry Zwigoff doesn't listen to rap, or Daniel Klaus.
I'm pretty sure.
But yeah, I kind of I remember I memorized something like, "No more hibernation," something like, "It's time for our high school graduation."
They do throw on the word matriculation.
Yeah. We achieve matriculation. That was a pretty good rhyme. I liked it a lot. The high school graduation. Oh my God! It was so. Yeah.
It's time for celebration because this is the day of our high school graduation.
Oh my God!
We stayed for the duration. Achieve matriculation. I can't even get to the all-ins without cracking up.
Oh
now we're the
God.
newest members of the general population.
That's it. Yeah. You had a verbatim.
Yeah. So he's supposed. I think Terry Zwigoff's just showing some of the ridiculousness of our culture.
It's a great way to to show as well. He's condemning modern, American culture, and everyone besides our two main characters are kind of almost hamming it up. Like they're playing caricatures of, American consumerist culture, right? Even that, you mentioned that guy in the mullet.
Yeah.
Everyone's just so over exaggerated, right? They're like caricatures of the American population, right? And every cutaway to all the students, they're just so hip and trendy, and they're extroverted, and the jock, and they just look so fake,
Sure.
And then our characters, they just look normal. So it's a great contrast to establish what they're trying to do.
Yeah, everything is exaggerated. I totally get you with that for sure.
I have a really quick side note about Scarlett Johansson. They think they mentioned somewhere around here that the studio actually said no to Scarlett. They said anybody but Scarlett Johansson at the time. I believe they pitched. The studio heads pitched to Terry Zwigoff and Daniel Klaus. I have it here really quickly. I'll get back to it later. But yeah, they wanted bigger name. They wanted somebody who's that girl from Clueless? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Alicia Silverstone. Yeah, names like that. They wanted it to be because they
and
thought
I think
it was.
They even wanted Christina Ricci for the.
Okay, no, yeah, that would have been actually kind of cool, but yeah, they thought this was going to be a typical teen movie, you know. They even wanted to completely oversaturate it with modern pop songs, and almost every teen movie has pop songs wall to wall. They're it's a huge commercial for all the soundtrack as well. So I'm really glad that he went into he knew that wasn't that kind of a movie, but I'm sure he had a lot of fights with the studio over that, and I'm glad he won out because it would have been a completely different movie.
Sure, it may have made more money at the box office.
Yeah.
But would have been quickly forgotten.
Sure.
Whereas this movie wasn't a box office hit. I think they were made just enough to go a little bit over breaking even, but it's so beloved many years after. So
I mean,
yeah,
I'm looking here. The budget 7 million, box office 8.8. That's a loss because they usually when they release budgets like they don't count the marketing budget. Marketing budget's almost half, maybe even twice. Another 7 million there too. So
Yeah.
they lost at least like 7-8 million there. But they probably made it up with DVD sales, and
For sure.
yeah. And later on, it just became such a cult classic that
Yeah.
it's just you're right. Like, yeah, it became a staple of pop culture later. Like, it became an icon. So they had to give up, box office success with timelessness, right?
Right.
And so we get them talking about, it's summertime, but Enid has to retake a remedial art class because she failed.
Yeah, there was a quote in here where they're talking about the girl's speech, and Rebecca says, "I never thought Chipmunk Face was never going to." Oh, I never thought Chipmunk Face was ever going to shut up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know, I liked her so much better when she was an alcoholic crack addict. Just those little sardonic,
Yeah, it's perfect.
sarcastic quips. It just makes the movie so great.
It's completely cold, like, and but it's like that's how you were when you were a kid. You had no filter. It's like when you're young and when you're old, you have no filter, right? You just
Yeah.
like say like the honest, brutal truth, like whatever comes into your head, like you'll just say. So it also captures that as well. It's really cool. But yeah, great job of ScarJo delivering that icy fucking line. Yeah, so get into the next scene.
Yeah, the graduation dance.
Yeah, I love the band playing here.
It's funny. It's like who
So kitschy.
who on the graduation dance planning committee thought it was going to be cool to hire basically a bunch of old dudes playing like lounge music.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is like something that you see at like the Reno casino. The people
Yeah.
who couldn't make the strip, so they're playing in Reno.
So yeah, someone like Enid might be into it,
Yeah.
but the general population of the school would be like, "What is up with
The general population.
this?" Nice.
Yeah, I remember I told you about one of my favorite scenes here when the boy that's coming to talk to Rebecca,
Yeah.
who looks like a young stand-in for Trader Zoigoff with the the parted Jewish hair, the Jufro that's parted to the side. It looks if you compare those two characters side by side with Terry, it's like uncanny, the resemblance. Maybe just the hair, but yeah, you can tell he's just he's just like shamelessly plugging in like surrogates of his younger self, and it's hilarious. But yeah, he comes up to her, and then Enid's like, "What? Do I not? I'm not even here." He's like, "Oh, hi, Enid." He's about to like, she's like holding like a pineapple, like it's a weapon.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a great scene.
Yeah, it's just stuff like that. I love.
Yeah, I feel like this dance scene has a lot of great lines. Of course, the classic, "This is so bad, it's almost good. This is so bad, it's gone past good and back to bad again." That's probably one of my favorite all-time lines. And then Melora's character, "Oh my god, I can't believe we made it. We graduated high school. How totally amazing."
Right. And then we see, what was that line where like the jock and the girl, and it's like, oh, if he's not careful, if she's not careful, he might date rape her or something.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Look, it's Stacy Himmler going out. Oh my God! Look, it's Stacy Himmler going out with Rod Harbaugh. How perfect! You better watch out, or he'll get AIDS when he date rapes her.
Oh my man, you wrote these lines down verbatim. Awesome. I appreciate your attention to detail.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is
dialogue gold here.
right. This is another line lifted from the comic. I believe he sees. It's when they see the like their high school classmates at the diner or at the Angels Cafe where they go to a lot. So it's good that they, it's another example of them just like mixing and matching dialogue and scenes and
Yeah, there's this one last bit, maybe before we move on to the next scene, where you start to get a sense of the distancing of Rebecca and Enid, where they start off seeming like best of friends and they get each other, but when they see that character Dennis, he's kind of a loner, and he's just kind of sitting at a table by himself, and Enid says, God, just think we'll never see Dennis again. And Rebecca's like, good. And Enid's like, no, really think about that. It's actually totally depressing. You could see that Enid sees these loners and outcasts and outsiders as her people, whereas Rebecca may have at one time. That's probably what bonded them, but throughout the movie, Rebecca's kind of, going middle of the road. She's
she's
dressing differently because she's working.
Yeah, she's going out into a more kind of socially acceptable route.
Yeah,
as opposed to Enid, she's going further down kind of the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
they're going in opposite paths.
Even tries to like emulate being a yuppie because it's going to help.
Absolutely.
Allow her to rent that apartment and this and that. So you start to see this distancing.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you make. That how they articulate that their first signs of their conflict, because again, that's a great economical way to put that scene in, because it does accomplish that, as well as it shows how Enid has like a more emotional, sensitive side to her as well. She's not just like this hard ass. And it also, to me, adapts the scene where she sees, in the comic, Enid sees like an old man carrying flowers, and she's like, he's walking home, and Enid's like, oh my, she just like kneels down on the street and and kind of breaks down and says, that is like the cutest thing in the world. It reminds me of that, how she just like relates to, loners, and well, that guy wasn't a loner, but she's very empathetic as well.
Yeah.
So it shows that side to her. I thought that scene established that. So cool. Anything else before we move on?
No, I think that's it.
Next scene, they're at the cafe, and
there is a scene in between that I did want to touch on, where Enid's dad is eating a bagel with jelly, and again, it's touching on this theme of the ridiculousness and ugliness and over commercialization of modern American life. There's this oil company commercial where it's like, this oil company cares about the environment. So that's kind of playing almost subliminally in the background. And Enid's dad is just stuffing his face with this bagel. And again, there's multiple times where people are just eating in a very ugly way. They're gobbling and stuffing their mouth and making slurping noises. You see Seymour when he's gobbling down that fried chicken later on, and there's a couple other scenes. And I didn't notice this at first until afterwards, but you can tell she's disgusted by her dad slurping, and Enid says, her response is, Jesus. And at first I didn't really make much of it until Seymour would respond to certain comments that Enid would make, and his stock response was Jesus as well. So I don't know if that was intentional to show how similar those two characters and how connected their
Interesting.
characters
I didn't make that connection.
I thought that
Very
was
cool.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, Daniel Klaus and Terry Zwigoff were just mentioning how, like, their kids see them as like that. Like no kid ever. Every kid sees their parents as almost like disgusting.
Yeah.
And like Thora Birch's look and her reaction in that moment were just pitch perfect.
Yeah.
So
All
next,
right, so yeah,
next scene
sorry, I just wanted to
no,
touch on
that was a great observation. Next scene, they're at the cafe. Enid is making a sketch of the Satanists. And little tidbit that the male Satanist is the costume designer or production designer. One of those. He's one of the crew members. Yeah, they look exactly like the Satanists in the in the comic book. So that was pretty cool.
And apparently, Robert Crumb's daughter, Sophie Crumb, did the artwork in the sketchbooks.
Yeah. Good little tidbit there.
Yeah, a little tidbit. And I believe Enid is wearing that iconic blue Raptor shirt in this.
Yes. And she's meeting Rebecca. Rebecca comes, and they're like, "Oh, we so have to follow them." Which,
yeah, the Satanists open up their umbrellas as they leave the cafe.
Yeah. Which is great. In the comic, they just follow them. They follow them around a little bit more, and they follow them to a grocery store, and they find out what they're buying. And,
Lunchables. Right?
Yeah, a bunch of
Sorry,
Lunchables.
I blew your.
No, it's fine. That should have been one of my. Nah, it's kind of it's too comic booky, but yeah, it should have been one of my trivia questions. But yeah, the reaction to you have to see what they're buying. It couldn't be any better. It's like Lunchables.
Yeah, the Satanists are totally up Enid's alley. It's like her type of people that fascinates her.
Uh-huh.
And there was that line. They're following them. They're walking on the sidewalk, and Rebecca's like, "So what do you do if you're a Satanist anyway?" And Enid's like, "Sacrifice virgins and stuff." And Rebecca's like, "Well, that lets us off the hook." That was pretty,
Yeah.
clever.
Another thing about the comic, in Angels, this is where Enid also meets Bob Skeets, who is a guy hanging out at the diner, and something of an obsession to Enid in the comic. Like Bob Skeets gives her his card. He's like a palm reader or something like that. But to me, Seymour is a combination of Bob Skeets and obviously the guy that they prank call for the classified ad, the personal ad in the newspaper that they obsess or that they prank. So it's a combination of those two characters, as well as Josh, because Josh in the comic is like a love interest for both Enid and Rebecca, and in this movie, Seymour becomes a romantic interest for Enid. So I just wanted to point that out. So on the way, they're following the Satanists, and then they all of a sudden see a cool 50s diner called Wowsville. And they enter Wowsville, and it's like we stepped into a time. It's like we stepped into 1954, right?
Yeah, I forget if this line was before or after that, but someone says, "Since when were there mini malls in the 1950s?" I think that might have been
Yeah.
Enid, probably Enid.
And they're playing like some modern pop song, and they're like, "Who can forget this classic of the 1950s?" Which is was supposed to be, sorry to cut you off, which was supposed to be Terry Zwigoff wanted "Oops, I Did It Again."
Yeah.
Some kind of generic, not generic, but like well-known pop song, but they couldn't get the rights to it, so they got this song, which I heard again in the Todd Solondz film Storytelling.
Okay.
So interesting that it just sounds like a generic pop song, like sun, 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 have fun,
Yeah,
fun,
yeah, exactly.
fun, in the sun, 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 right? Uh,
Yeah, Enid and Seymour seem to play the role of the mouthpiece for Terry Zwigoff and probably Daniel Clowes as well. Because Terry Zwigoff, in the liner notes for the movie soundtrack, he's highly critical of modern pop music, and he even criticizes Bjork, and
oh, yeah.
and so that kind of shows how much he can't relate in Bjork from
Did
a
you
lot
read?
of
Where
music
did you read this from, Edwin?
It's in the
Trivia?
liner notes of the CD.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
And I guess probably in the vinyl as well. So he doesn't come across as a fan of modern music, modern
Yeah,
culture.
sure.
And so Enid is kind of voicing a lot of that.
So after well, this is where they see the personal ad, right, at Wowsville. They're like, we should totally call. And, oh yeah, and obviously I totally forgot to mention Weird Al,
Yes.
which is one of my favorite scenes. There's like, I'll be your server today. My name is Al. It's like, can we call you Weird Al? Like, I'd imagine so. I love that line, and I love this actor. Ezra Buzzington is the name of the actor. I mentioned that because when they cast him, I think it was Zwigoff or Klaus was mentioning how it was very odd that this name was the same name as an old blues artist. So they're like suspicious that if this guy actually like maybe changed his name so to get in the good graces of this guy who loved blues. So I thought that was a cool little tidbit. Do you
And
mind?
they got him to look so much like the drawing in the
Sure,
comic.
sure, yeah.
Great.
Edwin, do you mind going through this recap and maybe naming the next scenes? Because most of my notes are just like,
Oh yeah, no problem. So they go through Seymour's ad. They play a prank on Seymour. And then it cuts to they're watching Joey McCobb on TV.
right, yeah.
This is a great line. It says, "If he's so weird, why is he wearing Nikes?"
Nikes, yeah.
And I think Nikes gets equated with normalcy twice.
Yeah,
I think Seymour has a line about
Sure.
give people McDonald's
a
and
Big Mac and a pair of
and the
Nikes.
Happies on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they even mentioned how I wish we didn't mention Nike twice. It was either Zwigoff or Klaus mentioned that.
Oh, okay.
But here, let me read. I have this here on the Criterion booklet. It shows because in Enid's scrapbook or her little sketch notebook, she actually tore out the personal ad and drew Seymour in there, right, with the "Nobody Loves Me."
Yes.
So the personal ad says, "Do you remember me? Airport shuttle, June 7th. You, striking blonde with yellow dress, pearl necklace, brown shoes. I was the bookish fellow in the green cardigan who helped you find your contact lens. Am I crazy or did we have a moment?" So yeah, it was very.
Is that where I wrote down this line? It might have been like immediately after Rebecca's like, "That's so pathetic." I mean, she probably didn't even notice him. And he's like, "I know," and he's like and he's like psychotically obsessing over every little detail.
Yeah.
Great.
Very cool.
Did you have any more on
Wowsville?
the whole Wowsville, or do you want to go on to the Sidewinder?
Well,
ask?
one more quick thing. I just
Okay.
I just find it fascinating that this is like the worst 50s diners ever. And they're fascinated by that, right? It's like so hipstery to like stuff that's like not liked and that's not popular, and it's like Enid says earlier, it's so bad it's good, right? So it's very interesting that they like Wellsville.
Yeah, it's you can see that in Blues Hammer later, where people lose touch with the true essence of something. Like, it gets so co-opted and so diluted and so popularized that it's just a parody of itself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I guess they're liking it ironically, right?
Yeah.
Which is like so like postmodern, such an interesting. Yeah. So next scene, right? Is it the garage sale?
Sidewinder.
Oh, you're right. No, yeah, I'm going way ahead. They didn't see Seymour yet at the Wildesville.
So they're gonna go ask Josh for a ride, and then Doug, the mullet guy, who's a real superstar in my book, he comes in and he wants to buy a 40. He refers to it as nature's nectar and wake up juice. And he's like, well, give me like 6 of these beef jerkies. And then he has that confrontation with the owner of the convenience store. And he's like, no shirt, no service, basically. And Doug's like, it's America, dude, learn the rules. And you could see that the movie celebrates the outsider, celebrates the quote-unquote weirdo, you know? It's like, it would be so easy for people to point fingers and make fun out of people like Doug, but this movie doesn't.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, there might be kind of like the odd fascination, but it doesn't necessarily look down on them negatively.
Oh, absolutely not. It not only empathizes with them, it celebrates them.
Right.
You know?
Enid's like, that guy rules.
That guy rules,
so
yeah.
I think she's speaking to that, for sure.
And the character of Doug is played by Dave Sheridan, who Terry Zwigoff found through Mike Judge. And Josh is played by Brad Renfro, the late Brad Renfro, who I believe after this I've only seen in like Bully, the Larry Clark film. So very short and tragic career for Brad Renfro. He didn't have a huge part in this, which if you were a fan of the comic, you probably expected that he would. So yeah, very relegated to a very small supporting role in this film, but yeah, he's just the guy that they like to torture, as Enid mentions later, right? So, but yeah, they're asking for it. Yeah, it was cool to establish the Sidewinder.
Yeah, and the guy is like listening to heavy metal in the parking lot.
Rock and roll, baby, freedom of speech. Right? With his nunchucks.
And then after that is where Josh drives to Wowsville again.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, he's against it. Like in the comic book, he's like, that's a terrible thing to do to somebody. And I believe Josh in the comic works at a record store. So they go to visit him and stuff like that. Yeah, so the Josh takes him to Wowsville, and they're going to meet to see if Seymour shows up. And lo and behold, he does, with his sexy green cardigan, and looking in, you know, coming in with his nicely combed hair and looking really mild mannered. He's pretty much the Terry Zwigoff stand-in, right? Just, but yeah, he comes in.
I thought Steve Buscemi was the perfect casting choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in the original DVD release, there was a short making of feature, and Terry Zwigoff was having a conversation with his wife, and apparently Steve Buscemi is the one man in Hollywood that Terry Zwigoff would have to kind of be wary of, his
Yeah,
wife
yeah.
having a fling, because
Sure.
apparently, it's not Brad Pitt or
Yeah.
Harrison Ford. I think he mentioned it.
Uh-huh.
It's Steve Buscemi that he had to worry about.
That's
And
crazy.
would,
Where
would
did you read
be,
this?
Like his wife's the apple, right? And I thought that was interesting. And
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And Terry Zygoff was saying, "Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I would hear a lot of other women tell me the same thing, that they think, that Steve Buscemi's so great and this and that." So I thought that was interesting.
Well, where did you get this tidbit?
It was a bonus feature on the original
Nice.
release. Of
Yeah,
the
I remember that too. So I was like, yeah, where did I hear that? Good job. Yeah, so they can't take it. They're just like, oh, this is unbearable. Josh is like, I agree. Like, what is he? Huh?
Enid's especially so ready to judge him.
Yeah.
Like, she says, "Oh my God, he just ordered a giant glass of milk," and Josh is like, "That's a vanilla milkshake," and she realizes that she was wrong.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Josh comes across as the rational one.
Yeah,
Like,
the level-headed. Level-headed. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, poor Seymour walks away. He leaves after waiting for a while, and when he leaves, he almost gets into a car accident, and they follow him, right?
And he flips out in his car.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
pounding his steering wheel.
What's wrong with you? Jesus Christ!
And you do see that temper later on in the movie as well.
Yeah, and another iconic scene. We'll get to it when we get there. But yeah, so they follow him. And they're like, he doesn't really even seem that bummed out.
No, that's probably one of my top 5 pieces of dialogue.
That must happen to him all the time. He's driving the shitty car. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Classic. Yeah, so they developed this unhealthy fascination with Seymour. Seems like Enid's more into it than Rebecca. But
yeah.
Is this the next day or yeah, I think it's the next day, right? Because they find out, they know where he lives, so they come back later.
Yeah,
and, like, check his
before
mail.
that though, there's the summer school art class.
Okay. Yeah.
Right after that, so
the mirror, father, mirror.
Yeah, you meet Rebecca. Not Rebecca. What's
Enid.
Yeah, what's the?
Oh, the art school teacher.
Oh, Roberta Allsworth.
Roberta Allsworth, yeah.
Ileana Douglas character, and you see, like, it's funny. Like, on the list of sponsors of her artwork, it says the Struggling Artist Foundation, the Why Not Me Project, and then it says her parents' names.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's still struggling. Obviously, she's a school teacher too, so they don't get paid as much. You should know that, right, Edwin? Sorry, I didn't mean to like put you down there.
Oh no,
I wasn't like a
no,
yeah.
no.
I wasn't like a subliminal diss or anything.
Okay. And then now it cuts to Enid and Rebecca stalking Seymour.
Right. Well, before that, I wanted to touch upon how, yeah, this is completely separate from the comic as well. I think one of Daniel Klaus's favorite works of his is Art School Confidential, and this whole subplot with summer school art class seems like lifted from all of his experiences from. He probably didn't know that he was going to get to adapt Art School Confidential with Terry Zwigoff 5 years later. So he was like, throw this in there because I want to, any chance I get to satirize the art world. And, I'm sure he got a lot of grief from a lot of critiques from his like cartoonish artwork, and he wanted to kind of take stabs at the art world himself. So very cool
to borrow a line from Roberta later in the movie. Oh, this light entertainment.
Yes. Yeah. It's so condescending, right?
Yeah.
as a sort of release, or we can do some more thoughtful, serious pieces. You can see Enid just rolling her eyes like fuck this,
Yeah.
fucking fuck this chick. And then also it establishes that, like her rival, that girl that like that did that kind of found art piece. I think
Yes.
this is about a woman's right to choose, and you can tell she's just like the typical like ass kisser. She like knows what this teacher wants, and she's just completely um, feeding into whatever she wants. So
Yeah.
there's one of those in every classroom, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, the garage sale, the mongoose scene, which I like to call, I love the mongoose. It's like, ew, what is that? He's like, that's a mongoose.
Yeah, that actor's great.
Yeah, he's like, how much is this? He's like, that's not officially for sale. Yeah, I might have to hold on to that for the time being.
And
I
before
love
that, they
so
look to
much.
his mail, and isn't there like something from like the National Psoriasis Foundation or something?
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
It's another line I couldn't hear from the commentary. But yeah,
But
no, go ahead.
oh, sorry. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to talk about how this was actually the first scene shot in the production, the garage
Okay.
sale. And interesting tidbit that Terry Zwigoff wanted a close up of the mongoose. And this is kind of a famous little thing where he clashed with the DP, Afonso Beato. And he said, he wanted the punchline of the mongoose to be really funny. So he kept stressing, like, we need this insert shot, so we need to light it correctly. And then the DP was like, we need to light the actual humans first. We said, not this freaking inanimate mongoose. And then like I think Zwigoff like still held the grudge like weeks after the production. He's like, I still want that insert shot. How come we don't get? Why don't we get a better shot of that mongoose? And the DP was just like, Jesus, Terry, we got enough shots to make a hologram of that mongoose. Hey, so that was an interesting little bit.
And you could tell again that division that's growing between Rebecca and Enid, how they're diverging in their friendship as well as their life paths. When they're talking to Seymour, Rebecca's smirking while Enid is genuinely engaging with Seymour and interested in the records that he's selling. And Seymour was kind of the object of ridicule at first, but I think Enid is seeing him as one of her people, one of these fringe characters in society that she can relate to.
All right.
He doesn't have the music taste that the rest of the world does. He's got very particular interests.
It's interesting the evolution of their relationship, right? She was just like he was just a curiosity to her, and then now it grew a little bit more. Like he finally gets to meet him. I love when like she looks at it when he's like, oh, the records, those are Seymour, and she's like, Seymour, talking like looking over at Rebecca saying like, oh, Seymour's his name.
Yeah, like that's the perfect name for this guy.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it's just so interesting hearing him talk and finally get to get our first interaction with Seymour and Enid, right?
Yes.
I think she asked for like, does he have any old Indian records? I think she's asking for Bollywood records in particular. He's like, no, I don't really collect foreign.
I may have one Hindi 78 or something. But
Yeah.
I forget what he says. It's like part of my collection or whatever.
Uh-huh. And then this is where we see the Robert Crumb and the Cheap Serenaders. But then he's like, no, they're not very good. So he gives her, this compilation, and he said, I knew a guy. This has like a thing. This has a really rare track on it. He says, I knew a guy who lent the original 78 for use on this reissue. He just sounds so nerdy when he's talking about that stuff. It's hilarious. And then this whole time you can see his roommate just like eye rolling the whole time. Joe, I think his name is in the movie. I love Joe.
Yeah, it's great.
Anything else happen here?
No, again, he puts the record in that cute little yellow bag that there Rebecca was, or Enid was.
It was so cute. Yeah, it was so cute when he put that record in the little bag. I was about to die. I was about to die.
And then I think the next is a short little scene where they are at a diner and they see Melora, who's downtown for some acting class, which I believe is from the comic as well.
Yeah,
that little interaction.
But the
like,
only thing,
I love this place. It's so funky.
Yeah, that was new from. That's not in the comic. But I just love how they they just love to make fun of her. She's just so clueless, ditzy. And then I love how they like reenact her like handshake. It's like,
yeah. Oh yeah,
the little with the two hands.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And this scene is where Rebecca is telling Enid about an apartment.
Yes.
That she's interested in. So she's saying, "Oh, we gotta, look like yuppies or whatever. We gotta look the part," which immediately cuts to an important scene, I think, where Enid is dyeing her hair green. I don't know if you want to jump to that or.
Yeah, real quick about the moving in together. I think it's a great arc for Rebecca. It's like that's her path, right, for the movie. She wants to grow up. This is her signifying her adulthood. She wants to move in with Enid, and obviously Enid showing trepidation and reservations about it. She doesn't want to grow up yet. You could tell.
Yeah.
They're both in different mindsets in regards to that, and it's a great way to point that out. Like, she wants a clear goal. She wants to get this apartment, and throughout the movie you could tell Enid just doesn't share the same attitude as Rebecca. So great little subplot there for Rebecca and ScarJo's character. But yeah, next scene is
Enid dyeing her hair green.
Yeah. Which is also in the comic. And she's like, rocking out in the mirror. She's like, when did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, how long have you been watching me? how long have you been standing there?
Yeah.
And then they go to the xenophobia.
Yeah, before that, they do run into the old man Norman. At the
bus
right.
Stop, There's Norman. Hi, Norman.
Becomes an important reoccurring.
Yeah, also in the comic book, as well as the pants on the sidewalk.
And they go stop by to see Josh at his place, but he's not there.
Well, real quick, that guy's not really named Norman. They just see that little thing on the floor, the cement, where it's like Norman, right?
Oh, okay.
So and then in the comic they expound upon that a little bit more. They're like, I love the idea of this narcissist who just wrote his name over and over, and Rebecca's like, sounds a lot like you, Enid. But yeah, we don't meet him. We saw him earlier in the cafe, but John Ellis, the neo-Nazi, right?
Yes.
He's like, I don't know. Do they ever say the last name of Enid in the film? I don't think so, right?
No, they don't.
Okay,
they don't.
In the comic, her last name is Coleslaw.
Yes.
And Enid Coleslaw is an anagram for Daniel Klaus.
Very clever, yes.
Yeah, and Rebecca's last name in the comic is Doppelmayr, and John Ellis is always like, Rebecca, say hi to Rebecca Doppelganger for me. Like, it's Doppelmayr, you asshole. Yeah, he's a character. He's an asshole. He's a what does he say in the movie? He's like, "Oh, somebody call you or punk is dead," or something like that.
Yeah, so that whole little interchange at the zine store, punk rock is over. I know it's over, asshole. And then he goes about if you really wanted to,
Fuck up the system.
Be a rebel, you should go to business school. That whole thing.
Yeah, which is also in the comic, but another character said that. Just some guy that Enid bumps into on the street. So it's good that instead of just introducing another character, they just economically gave that line to John Ellis. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I liked how she feels like attacked from every side. John's like, oh, how punk, and this and that.
Oh,
and
punk.
He's like, get a job.
Yeah.
And then Enid's like, it's not like I'm some modern punk, this and that. It's obviously supposed to be a 1977 punk look, but I guess you're too stupid to get it. And then Rebecca's like, I didn't get it either. And now she's like, oh, my friends don't get me. And Enid's like, so exasperated. She's like, everybody's too stupid. I like that. I love that line right there. The zine shop. She leaves kind of frustrated.
Yeah. She comes home and whips out that Skip James record or the compilation.
Right. She dyes her hair back to the original color.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see how she's just trying out different identities throughout the movie.
Sure.
Probably trying to represent her, finding herself, finding her.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And I just wanted to mention how I remember when I used to buy records, how like buying used records as well, just like leaving it there, not listening to it, and then when you finally get around to it, and then you hear this one song that just hits you, and you're just like, wow, kind of just blown away listening to it over and over. It really hit me and reminded me of those days when, most notably, when I listened to like Sergio Mendes and Brazil '66. I remember just like, buying that at Amoeba for 99 cents and then like leaving it around and then finally getting to listen to it. And I'm like, whoa, this whole album, like wall to wall, just like listening to it over and over. So really relatable moment there. Wouldn't you agree, Edwin?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think every music fan, every record enthusiast can relate to that, just playing that song over and over because you're just hypnotized. You're so captivated by that song, you just have to keep replaying it.
Quickly, I wanted to mention some more commentary. How Zweigoff was mentioning how the bond company that invested, in the movie, they were asking Terry Zweigoff himself how a first-time director would make a tight shooting schedule, and Zweigoff replied, "How the hell should I know?" He just like, I don't know. I guess it sounded better when he said it, but yeah, they're just like this bond company. Like, what the hell does a bond company do? And asking him how does he make this movie. He's like, I don't know. I'm just gonna shoot. I'm gonna do it somehow. But yeah, it's interesting how, before this, Terry Zweigoff made 2 documentary films, right? Louie Bluey and Crumb. And so this was his first foray into live action movie making. And one of his anxieties that he mentions a lot in the commentary is that he did not know how to direct actors. So he called up his good friend, Francis Ford Coppola, of, Apocalypse Now and Godfather fame. He, just called his buddy, Coppola. He may have had him on speed dial, He asked him, how do I got this project I'm working on that I wrote. how do I shoot? How do I direct actors? And Coppola's like, it's just nothing. It's nothing that I can teach you in, a couple of weeks. It just comes from experience. But he gave him some great advice. He told him to go to an acting class and just sit in and watch how actors work. And I believe like Zweigoff did that. I think he even went with Coppola. And after the first class that he attended ended, I think he even asked the acting teacher to give him a kind of a crash course on how to direct actors. So interesting little tidbit there that Zweigoff was very nervous on how to direct actors, seeing as this is his first time, directing. So just wanted to mention that really quick.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome tidbit.
Mm-hmm. So next up, Enid goes back to the garage sale, Seymour's garage sale, right?
Yes, because she's so entranced by that
Sure.
song, she wants to go back and find more music like that.
He's like, there are no other records like that. You like my
yeah.
You like my impression?
That was really good. You channeled good old Seymour. And Seymour tries to impress Enid with the original Memphis mini record, so he goes and gets it, and then Enid pranks him by pretending to drop it, and Seymour practically has a heart attack. And then she realizes what a big deal that was to him, and she probably feels bad.
Yeah. And again, Joe's reaction in the back, just like, oh my god.
I was reading, I think on the Wikipedia article about the critical response, and overall the critical response to the movie, as well as the actors and the characters, was all positive. But some of the critics were critical of Enid's character, that they didn't find her very sympathetic, that they thought she was a mean character. But I don't see that. Like, on the surface, okay, she's sarcastic and she, plays pranks on people like Seymour, but I don't find her a mean character at all.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
So I couldn't quite agree with some of those few critics that saw Enid as a unlikable character.
Especially like critics who just seen it for the first time. I get on a surface level, she has a tough exterior, and I think another thing that can contribute to that is, you and I have seen this so many times. Like, we know these characters like the back of our hand, so maybe over time they've softened to us, even though to a lot of people, like, that sardonic exterior could be off-putting. To us, it's just like almost second nature because we know them so well now, So
yeah.
Do you think it could be a combination of that as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool, yeah. So next scene
is back to the art class, and this was when that trivia question you asked me about the video game character, and she finds out that from Philip, if you said, right? Philip?
Yes.
This
Philip must be a work of Philip.
From a video game, and Roberta says, "Oh, I thought this was supposed to be your father." That was a funny
the
line.
mutilator.
And
it's the
this
mutilator.
is the part where Roberta is very patronizing and belittling to Enid's artwork, calling, saying that cartoons are amusing, light entertainment, this and that. And you did a good job of mentioning what Roberta thought was like higher art, or like more thoughtful, more important art or something.
Yeah, and you can tell like the way she's just like praising, the tampon and the teacup, and it's like, this is found art. He's like, this is, you can tell that girl is just completely manipulating her her sensibilities to her advantage.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. I was done.
and that girl, she was starting to stumble a little bit, but then the art teacher kind of ends her sentence for her, and
repressed femininity. Yes.
Yeah.
I love those critiques because I never taken I never took an art school class, but I've taken creative writing classes, and I just love the parts of the class where we could critique, because it's like open season, like everyone's like, oh, what'd you think of this class, what'd you think of this piece, what'd you think of this and that. Everyone's of course gonna be like, I thought it was good, it's okay. But some people are just like really borderline hurtful with their critiques. But I just love that environment, so
yeah,
I kind of miss that. Really quickly, another fascinating tidbit. Daniel Close had no screenwriting program when they wrote the script, so he wrote it in longhand, pretty much like prose format, like a treatment. And then Terry Zwigoff would rewrite in a typewriter, probably like in some old fancy typewriter, because he doesn't believe in computers, because he's like a anti-technology misanthrope. But for like a year and a half, they just like they shared the same office space, and Daniel Close would just share these amusing stories of how most of the time they're together, Terry's just like cursing at him, like, God damn it, motherfucker, or like him making mistakes on the typewriter because they didn't have the proper format. He had to space it like manually on the typewriter, because they couldn't afford a screenwriting program. And then like Daniel Close is like sardonically like, why not save 18 months with just $100 of a screenwriting program? Where they're just like remarking how stupid they were. They also mentioned how Devil Got My Woman. I think Terry Zwigoff looked it up on YouTube, how it has like 2 million hits now. And before, like 30 people like knew about the song.
Right.
So like this movie really did bring into prominence a lot of obscure references, right?
Oh, for sure. That song,
the Junpei
Bollywood
Chan-ho,
song in the beginning, a lot of that for sure.
Next scene.
I guess the next scene was the masterpiece video, but I don't have a whole lot to say about that. I guess they were trying to juxtapose, like, this is a movie, a video rental place, but the guy working there had no clue about Fellini or 8.5. And
like,
I guess maybe he was trying to make a comment about that.
He's like, 9.5 weeks starring Mickey Rourke. It's in the erotic drama section. It's like, no, not 9.5, 8.5, the classic Fellini film. Yeah, right. back then I was just like, I was just like,
and the name of the story is like
stupid.
Masterpiece Video, but they have no clue.
Yeah, couple little tidbits. All the VHS or DVD covers you see there are all made up. They couldn't get any rights to real covers. The guy who plays the video store cashier, played by Patrick Fischler, he's in a lot of. He's a great character actor. I remember him recently in like the new Twin Peaks. But yeah, as we see Enid and Rebecca walking along, it's great how it ends. The scene ends on this like tubby guy in a mullet, like just sipping on this huge like big gulp.
Yeah.
And wearing like a Tommy Hilfiger shirt, just like another, example of just pure consumerism, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that, really. I wouldn't say subtle, but yeah.
Right. It's pretty obvious what the opinion of the filmmakers and the creators are of that side of American culture, American life, for sure.
Yeah. Next scene?
The record collector party.
Oh, right.
A great scene there.
Yeah. The two guys arguing. It's like, you got a Klipsch 2B3. He's like, something like that. He's like,
yeah, it's very cringy. And Rebecca's like, I totally hate you.
Yeah.
For Enid dragging her to this. Well, not dragging her to this party because I think Rebecca was expecting it to be
Like a party.
a fun party. Yeah.
She's all like completely overdressed in that green dress.
Right.
And then the David Cross, David Cross comes and hits on her.
Like, are you Irish or something?
It's like, well, Laura, oh yeah, you got a green dress. Are you Irish? I love before that him and Joe were talking. He's like, who are the two girls over there? He said, what does he call them? He says something, right?
They're Seymours or something.
No, but he calls them something like, who are the two cheerleaders? Yeah, he's like, who are the two cheerleaders? He's like, yeah, they're Seymour. He's like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, don't worry, I've lived with a guy 5 years. He's not getting any. Neither are you. Let me tell you something, Joe. You hear me? Listen to me, Joe. You can't hit a home run without swinging in the bat. All right, physically impossible. Joe's like, right.
Yeah, that's great. You nailed it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Fucking Joe and I guess David Cross's name is Gerald. I'm reading from the cast list here. Goes over and gets completely shot down by Rebecca.
Yeah, that was hard to watch. And then
I love how when he goes see, he's like, "Hey, there's a seat." It's so smooth.
Oh yeah, I like you. I like you or something.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Yeah, you're okay.
Right.
You're a sharp girl. You're okay.
And then Seymour's trying to sell a record to a very serious collector, but the collector's pointing out a crack and this and that.
A tight hair
so he's
crack.
like, I only buy, whatever high grade records, that Seymour. And then he walks off, and Enid's like, what was all that about? Enlarged holes and tight cracks. Great.
Yeah, I didn't think you were gonna come. It's not like a real party.
And then Seymour goes with Enid to his record room, and Enid's like,
this place is off
like,
limits. I love that part.
This is like my dream room.
I love how that's such a baller move too. Just like, hey, you want to come into this VIP room? This is off limits. Nobody could come in here, right?
Yeah, I marked as one of my other favorite bits of dialogue. Wow, this is like my dream room. Are these all records? I have about 1,578s at this point. I've tried to pare down my collection to the essential. God, look at this poster. I can't believe this room. You're the luckiest guy in the world. I'd kill to have stuff like this. Please, go ahead and kill me. This stuff doesn't make you happy, believe me. Oh, come on. What are you talking about? You think it's healthy to obsessively collect things? You can't connect with other people, so you fill your life with stuff. I'm just like all the rest of these pathetic collector losers. That's
Spot
so
on.
great. I love that.
Yeah, one of the great quotes. And interesting tidbit, this room is modeled after Terry Zwigoff's room with all those memorabilia and pictures of old blues artists. And they had to clear they had to trace all of the ancestry of every artist picture on the wall because they're so like old. So that was really tough to get the rights. Every little single thing that you see in the room, they had to clear the rights to. So that was pretty fascinating.
It's almost like clearing samples
Yes,
for
exactly.
a record. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then I love the part where like she writes Enid on the little phonograph.
Yeah.
Another part of I don't know if that was. Oh yeah, obviously that's not in the comic because there's no Seymour character. So.
And this is a very pivotal scene because this is where Enid decides that she's going to try and set Seymour up. And so
yes,
this is
yeah.
important
You have a heart to heart,
turning point.
and he's like, no wonder I haven't had a girlfriend in like whatever. He says like 5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, she's like, I'm talking to you, and like, I bet you I could get you a date or something. So she sets up this little side project of getting him a date. So another plot point there.
Yeah, and this was, I think, the first instance of where Seymour responds to an uncomfortable remark with Jesus. Enid's like, "Mark my words, by the end of this summer, you'll be up to your neck in so,
Pussy. Yeah. And he's like,
and
Jesus.
Seymour's like, Jesus.
Yeah. He's not very what's the word? Um, eludes me. You know what I mean. Not very vulgar.
Yeah.
He's not very vulgar.
Yeah.
Interesting dynamic between them, the odd couple.
Yeah.
This is another thing that critics harped on back then. They heavily criticized Terry Zwigoff for being very Woody Allen-esque. You know, like the age difference and between, Seymour's like 45 or something like that, and Enid's like 18. So they accused Terry Zwigoff of, this is, what do you call it? Fantasy? I can't remember the word. Wish fulfillment, yeah.
Okay.
So they accused him of, wanting to get with a younger girl.
Interesting.
Which, again, in the Woody Allen age, that crosses art and exploitation. I guess that could be easily mistaken, right? So, but I don't see that at all. I'll harp on this a little later. I'll add more to this later, but I see it more as two lonely souls connecting, right? And it doesn't matter what age you are. But yeah, it's just very two isolated, alienated souls that connect.
Yeah.
Is what I see it as. Next scene.
The next scene is, well, there is that scene where they're out on the street and Enid's kind of pointing out different women for Seymour. So I guess we're kind of past that. And then,
well, yeah, we could touch on that a bit. Yeah, they're just like,
what about her?
Yeah,
what about her?
He's like, do you like girls with big tits? He's like, Jesus. Yeah, I think he's just content with any girl at this point, any woman.
Yeah, they're after this. They're at the Sidewinder again, and Enid introduces Josh to Seymour.
Yeah,
and
he drops the Sunday.
Seymour's like, "So is that your boyfriend?" So you can kind of see some possible.
Yeah, Seymour's
just very subtle, perhaps interest of Seymour towards Enid.
Yeah,
it's not very blatant, but
yeah, it gets cut. It gets cut off when Enid sees the Anthony's, right?
Yeah,
but yeah, no, that's an interesting point. Another quick little production side note: this location, the city is an unknown city. I think Zwigoff wanted it to be like Anytown, USA, but most of this film is shot in the Los Angeles area. They mentioned, that strip that they were walking on when they were checking out the girls. They shot it on like La Brea, like just south of 6th Street, something like that. So very local to us anyway. We live in Southern California, and I think that the bus stop where Norman's sitting at was shot somewhere in San Pedro.
Okay.
So yeah, very various LA locations that they shot in. So and another interesting tidbit: they originally wanted Lawrence Tierney to play the adult movie clerk that we're about to go into right now.
Okay.
That would have been a very odd vibe, because he's very antagonistic and contentious actor.
The clerk doesn't really have a major role.
He's just eating a sandwich.
Yeah.
And this is the famous where they're like, "Oh my God, Seymour, you have to lend me the money to buy this. I don't want to be on some strange mailing list."
Right.
And then cut to, "Give me all your money, bitch."
Right, at the coffee experience. And I thought it was interesting. There was like a a proto Karen before we knew about Karens.
Right.
She's like, "Can I get you a biscotti to go with that?"
No, I would not like a biscotti with that. Biscotti with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I could tell. I'm also like, I identify with customers that have to wait in line for people who are just like meandering and just like endlessly talking about whatever, like their personal lives. Like, Jesus, there's a line here, like, because like I'm very like economical when it comes to buying stuff. I know what I want. I never hold up the line. I never chit chat or anything like that. So like I kind of identify with. I could see her like just, you know what I mean? Like, hurry! I got some places to be. We got places to be. Some of us. So I kind of like, now that I'm older, I guess I identify with that Karen a little. Maybe maybe I'm a Karen and I just didn't know about it.
It's happened to your inner Karen.
My inner Karen.
This coffee house scene's got another one of these moments where you can see the divide between Enid and Rebecca, like the wheelchair guy.
Yeah, Feldman.
Yeah, Enid's like, at least the wheelchair guy's sort of entertaining. Rebecca's like, he's a total asshole. He doesn't even need that wheelchair. He's just totally lazy. Enid's like, that rules. Rebecca's, no, it doesn't. You'll see. You get totally sick of all the creeps and losers and weirdos. And Enid's like, but those are our people. Rebecca's like, yeah, well,
yeah.
So when are you going to get your job?
Yeah. You can totally tell they're in different mindsets and philosophies now. They're starting to drift apart. Another quick side note here. Somebody, one of the fans, like wrote in to Klaus or Zweigoff that how back then they could get away with like a Word doc on Feldman's search engine. And he just like typed it into like a Word document, and like somebody wrote into them where they said there's no internet access on Word doc, so like that's obviously not a search engine. Terry Zweigoff and Dan Gosler is like, oh my god, who would nitpick something like that? But today, there's a lot of nitpicky stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah.
People call it like plot holes or just goofs. I'm kind of like that too. When my biggest pet peeve is when people are talking on their cell phone in the movies or TV shows, and you could tell they're not. You could see the menu in the shot. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're not talking on your phone. You know what I mean? The least you could do is like fake call somebody and put it on the call screen, just for people like me. I hate that.
Right.
Because it just ruins the illusion. Like, that guy's talking to nobody. He has the menu up on his iPhone. Anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard to make it more realistic.
Back in art school, the tampon and the teacup, right? Or did you want to...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, actually...
Anything else we missed?
Before that, there was like a little exchange at a coffee house. Rebecca and Enid are hanging out, and then Rebecca sees a guy that she's checking out, and he walks by. He's like, "Are you guys who's up for some reggae tonight or whatever?"
Yeah.
And then
another line from the comic.
Yeah, and then there's the alien autopsy guy, and then Rebecca and Enid have that exchange about how you hate all guys, and she's like, "Oh, that's not true. I just hate all these obnoxious, extroverted, pseudo-bohemian boozers." I believe that's from the comic.
Yes.
As well.
In the commentary, they point out how even the alien autopsy guy is kind of sad. And they're like, "What? Yeah, why are all of the males in our movie kind of like sad?" And depressing. That guy who seems like kind of cool too is.
Yeah.
And then I just thought about it, like, that is pretty fascinating. I guess that's just the mindset of our creators. That's the way they see the world, right?
Right.
Everyone's kind of like a sad sack. Yeah, the alien autopsy guy was cool. It's like alien autopsy. I love that name.
Yeah. And that actor was in much bigger roles. I forget his name. He was like in like, was he in like Road Trip or I forget. But yeah.
This is an interesting piece of information. Well, in that scene, Enid mentions how she's going crazy from sexual frustration.
Yes.
To which Rebecca, responds, you never heard of the miracle of masturbation.
Yeah.
And in the comic, they actually delve a bit more into that. How they actually, both of them, they tell stories about how they lost their virginity, and they even have like I think they even cut a scene where they shot like of them. They had a masturbation scene with Enid or something like that. So it was just interesting in the comic. I guess that's just more of a backstory thing than something they probably couldn't get away with in a studio movie as well. So next scene, I believe. Oh, do you have anything else to add to this scene, or?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. So I believe the next scene is the car ride to the bar, right? Or am I missing something? Okay.
Yes. The sports bar.
Yeah, and then they're listening to the radio saying, KPTO coming at you, or whatever. Seymour's like, this loud voice is so shrill and piercing, and producer Leanne Halfin in the commentary mentions how she completely hears Terry Zwigoff's voice as Seymour's complaining about the radio DJ. He's like, this is where I can hear your voice, Terry. So that was pretty interesting. They're about to go see one of Seymour's favorite blues artists.
Fred Chapman? Is that?
I forget.
Or, no,
Oh, I forget the artist that he wanted, because he brought a record for him to sign to, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And he's really excited to go see them. He's like, I can't believe he's not headlining, right?
Yeah.
So they go to this sports bar. Of course, everyone's like all like this, like wearing a sports memorabilia, and obviously Terry Zwigoff doesn't like this archetype of crowd. Everyone's just like loud and watching the game, not paying attention to the performance.
Yeah.
And an interesting turn of events when Enid talks to the girl and tells her to go, how about that girl? Brings her over to Seymour's table, right?
Yeah.
And in typical Seymour fashion, he talks too much about what does he say, like
ragtime.
Ragtime has a more traditional 12-bar stanza to its structure. He's such a smooth ladies man, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just into what he's into. The rest of the world just doesn't get him.
I love her response. She's like, well, if you're really into blues, you should listen to Blueshammer. They're really great.
Yeah.
That's all she got.
Yeah, she's just kind of like smiling and nodding her head.
Uh-huh.
And then all the while, Enid's on her own, kind of scoping out the bar, and it's just full of depressing scenes of just typical dudes being knuckleheads. They're burping and
that cowboy that burps,
staring at waitresses as they walk by. And
the guy with the Redskins sweater, which is another dated reference because there's no Washington Redskins anymore, right? They're the Washington football team now.
Yes.
Let me ask you this real quick to kind of sidetrack. You and I both like sports. So what do you take of this kind of attack on, sports watching culture? Do you feel offended by that, or?
No, I relate to it 100%. Like, I feel like I'm a sports fan that genuinely loves sports but can't relate to 85-90% of sports fans.
I see. No, I don't know what you mean. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I'm not like sorry to cut you off, but I'm not like that typical sports fan either. Like that does what do you call that? When you barbecue, what do you call that again?
Tailgating.
Yeah, tailgating. You know, I don't typically do all the. I don't like big gatherings, and I don't watch Super Bowls with large Super Bowl parties and stuff like that. Even when we go to games, I'm kind of reserved. I clap. I don't like paint my face or anything like that. But
Yeah, I get you.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, at first when like watch. Have you seen the movie Crumb? Right.
Yes, I've only seen it once,
Okay.
and I only recollect bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, because Crumb, you can tell like Terry Zwigoff and Crumb have the same sensibilities as well. Crumb like vehemently hates like sports fanatics, and he sees like people who wear like sports caps and stuff like that. They're like they're advertising for these teams. It's like there's free advertising for them. It's like he has such a strong opinion against like that culture. And at the time when I saw it, I felt kind of not offended, but I kind of felt like bad that I like sports, But
We like Seymour. We like what we like. And
Yeah,
we don't have to
yeah.
apologize for
Sure.
it. But yeah, like I feel that about a lot of things where I really enjoy something, but I don't relate to the majority of the people who actually like those things too.
okay, no, that's a good answer. I think maybe as we get older, I don't know about you, but maybe me, when I get older, I may, drift apart from those things and maybe adopt that viewpoint. But for now, not yet anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, Blues Hammer takes the stage, and I love the lyrics. I've been picking cotton all day long or something like
Yeah.
that.
So ridiculous. So
So racist.
yeah.
I've been in the
And
field
just
picking
so
cotton.
like out of touch and so far removed from the original context of things.
Oh,
And
yeah.
connecting that back to Wowsville, it's like it's lost all of its meaning and its significance when it's been so commodified and just
Yeah, can you even really call that blues?
ridiculous.
It's just like alternative rock.
yeah.
It's just like Blink or like. No, I don't want to mention. I love Blink, so just like a typical.
But yeah, it's like
Alternative
how much is that singer of Blues Hammer really feeling and talking from experience? Absolutely
Yeah.
zero, right?
Right,
It's just,
and
it's just-
the whole band's
it's-
kind of like hamming it up too.
yeah. Like you said, everybody besides Enid and Seymour, they're just so exaggerated.
Yeah, they're
like,
playing caricatures.
yeah, like the way the guy's playing lead guitar is just so
Ridiculous.
So
Yeah, and somebody,
funny in a bad way. Yeah.
everyone's dancing, and then Seymour gets some beer spilled on his pants.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he didn't get on the record. I don't even know if he got it signed. He probably was sidetracked by that girl, and he didn't get it signed.
Yeah.
So
I think so.
poor Seymour. He didn't even get what his objective was to be there. And they leave, and he's like, "This is why I haven't been anywhere in months."
Right. Oh, yeah. And this kind of goes to how Seymour can't relate to modern society.
Yeah.
They
They give
that line,
everyone,
"It's simple for everybody else. You give them a big back and a pair of Nikes, and they're happy. I
Yeah.
can't relate to 99% of humanity." Yeah. I get that.
Yeah,
and
that's a great line.
I relate to that.
And that's completely
times.
Terry Zwigoff, you could tell.
Yeah.
Is this the scene where they the crosswalk with the two moms with the strollers? Is it, what are we in slow motion here? Have some more kids, why don't you? Jesus, move it! It's just like the frustration in him is building from the bar, and then takes it out on these poor moms on their strollers.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. who of course are overweight, which another example of over consumerism, right?
Yeah.
So
Which this kind of like self-indulgent culture
Yep,
that
yeah.
leads to obesity. And when we talk about the movie theater scene, just kind of pumping on that, extra butter on the
yeah,
popcorn.
let me get
and
lots
all
of butter on that. Like, here you go, a bunch of delicious yellow chemical sludge.
Before we get to the movie theater, which I think is next, I think there is a scene where Enid sees the original Cook's Chicken.
Oh, right, yeah.
Signage.
Yeah.
And we can connect this to Blues Hammer, where it raises an interesting point about history and what happens over time, that things in the past with horrible roots, whether it's racism, violence, people lose track of the meaning of things, what's happened, the history of things. So you end up with Blues Hammer singing lyrics about picking cotton, but the meaning's been stripped out of it, and then the signage of originally Coon Chicken turning into Cook's Chicken, it's been glossed over, and the
commodified
connection to the past has just been forgotten. And so I think another theme of this movie is how modern society, in its like mindless entertainment and this and that, we choose to forget, or where we don't even think about the past. We forget about the past, and we don't concern ourselves with the past.
Right. And then, this is where she also takes the piece for her found art piece to great critical acclaim by Roberta Ellsworth, who praises it as a remarkable achievement to the dismay of her rival. That was a great scene. And then, like, the look of Enid as she looks at her rival, like, hey, point Enid.
That was a good look.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I love their explanation about how, I guess, racism was more out in the open back then. Now it's not as much or whatever. She didn't do a great job of articulating it, but I knew what she meant.
And so, cut to the movie theater. Enid's got a job under the idea that she's going to work, get a job, be able to pay rent, and move into an apartment with Rebecca.
Yeah, and I love her like shift manager or whoever he is. He's just like, didn't she get trained on upsizing? He's like, yeah, I feel kind of what'd she say? It feels kind of sleazy, right, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he's like, it's not optional. I love that guy. He's like, when you want to open up, when you want to do things yourself, open up your own movie theater. But yeah, the way she's just talking to the guy, let me get a medium Sprite. She's like, and then she has some like glib comment of, my good man, don't you know that you're saving money by buying the large or whatever. I can't do justice to what she says.
Yeah.
She said,
I'm only telling you this because we're such good friends.
Yes.
Medium is strictly for suckers who don't understand the concept of value.
Thank you so much, Edwin. You remember the wording to that quote much better than I did. I love that guy had like a little like ponytail too. He's the only guy like out of all the like over embellished caricatures that looks kind of friendly,
Yeah.
He looks like a nice personality, at least, to his little. I think he had like a what do you call it? What do you call those pouches? I'm at a loss for words right now. I don't know. What do you call it? I'm not a hacky sack. The thing that you tie around your waist.
Fanny pack.
Fanny. Thank you so much. Jesus, why did I say hacky sack? I guess it sounds kind of like fanny pack.
Yeah, it
All right, I guess we're getting a little. My mind is a little deteriorated right now from so much talk.
And then she loses her movie theater job because she's not upselling, and she's
Right.
talking bad about the feature. And then so she's has to resort to selling some of her stuff to make some money.
You don't criticize the feature. What did she say? You're gonna need about a couple beers after this movie or something. She's great.
And some guy wants to buy her Goofy Gus, but she changes her mind.
Oh yeah, the guy.
Lady wants to buy her dress.
Yeah, she's like, no. Well, for the first guy, she's like, I can't imagine selling, giving away the Goofy Gus to a guy with a soul patch. And then the girl was like, oh yeah.
How much for the dress?
Like that's $200, or no, that's $500. It should be like $2.
I lost my virginity in that dress. Who cares, or something like that.
Why do you even want it? It wouldn't look good on you anyway. Like, God, fuck you. Like, so are you gonna get a real job now? Oh, it's such sharp writing right there.
And then I think it's Seymour's birthday.
Oh right, yeah. You hear the Lionel Belasco record to the
Oh yeah, like doesn't Rebecca want? She invites Enid to hang out with her. She's like, yeah, let's do something tonight. And Enid was like, oh, I'm busy. I'm gonna make it's Seymour's birthday, and I'm gonna make him a cake or something like that.
Yeah. And then I think at this point she even says like, I'm so sick of Seymour, right?
Yeah.
So you could tell already they're not only drifting apart, but the line has been drawn. They're going their separate ways. Seymour's obviously one of the reasons for their contentious relationship at this point. Cut to, oh, did you want to add something else? Or?
Oh, yeah. Enid said she was going to bake a cake, but she ends up
cut
getting
to
hostess cupcake, but a candle in it.
Is it a ho-ho or a ding-dong? Or
I think it was just one of the regular hostess cupcakes with the little squiggly
right, yeah.
line on top. And then
the
Seymour
wax
leans
candle
over
on
to
it.
blow out the candle, and he, hurts his back.
Oh, yeah, and then he has, a little strap for lumbar support.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is based on Terry Zwigoff. He actually has one of those, so he mentions in the commentary. Doesn't surprise you, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know when this happens, if it's... I think Dana calls Seymour. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but Dana calls, and Seymour thinks it's another prank call, but Enid's like, oh no, keep listening to it.
Yeah.
And then Enid says something like, I think only stupid people have relationships, and then
Yeah, only stupid people
Seymour
have
is
good
like,
relationships.
oh, that's the spirit. And
Yeah.
I forget the context of that, but I think it might have been in that scene.
Okay.
It's kind of funny that when Seymour is pessimistic and cynical, Enid's the optimistic one, trying to encourage him. But when Enid's the cynical one, that Seymour ends up being the more positive one. So they're never both cynical at the same time.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I gotta go back and check that out. Good observation there. So is this where we get to meet Dana?
Yes, I think this is at Seymour's house. He invites her over for dinner.
Right. This is where they're having ice cream, and she wants him to get up and dance.
Yeah, and Dana said, yeah, when I talk to you on the phone, you just seem so,
harmless.
so harmless.
Yeah.
Seems
thanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the scene where he gets up to dance and he just looks like he has 2 left feet.
Yeah,
He's
I love
not
the
into
song.
it at all. He's not. I don't really dance, which I can relate to because I don't really dance as well. before I listened to K-pop anyway. I like doing the choreography dance moves of certain idol groups. But yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, look at the time. Is the movie start at 9 p.m.?"
Right. And Enid gave up hanging out with Rebecca because she wanted to wait by the phone, and she's assuming that the date's gonna just go horribly, so she's expecting Seymour to call. She's waiting and waiting by the phone to hear about, Seymour's horrible date, but he never calls because things are going pretty well for Seymour.
Oh yeah, he even calls her, and she calls him, and he tells him it's going well. And yeah,
But you could see that they're very different people, whereas Seymour and Enid have more interests in common. Dana seems more superficial.
yeah,
Like even their taste in movies. I think Dana mentions that. I think that movie that was mentioned in the video store, like the flower that ate I forget the flower that something, the
Yeah.
moon ate the moon. And Seymour talks about the movie he likes, and he talks about how he likes like Laurel and Hardy. And Dana's like, why does the fat one always have to be so mean to the skinny one? Like he doesn't get his sense of humor.
Yeah, all good stuff. And then I think this is where Enid calls Rebecca, and Rebecca's like just watching a movie at home, eating popcorn, and they're like, "You still want to do something?" And then Rebecca is just like, what am I? You can tell she's like, yeah, what am I? Your second option? Like, I'm gonna go out with friends. Like, just some friends from work. She's like, you're lying. And as you can tell, contentious relationship. There's a further divide, and yeah, it's not. They're not in a good place. In the comics, it's different. It's she is taking a test to go to art school. Enid is, and Rebecca is just like very kind of mad about that. She's like, "Oh, why didn't you tell me? Like you're moving away," and they're just like, it's just very, I don't know, trivial in the comic, but I like this conflict more. I would see more.
Mm-hmm.
No, go
The
ahead.
next scene cuts to Seymour at work, and he's eating fried chicken in a very unsightly manner.
Yeah,
it's like kind of
he's
greasy fingers and kind of gnawing away at his teeth.
He's destroying it, and
Yeah.
that's how I am with fried chicken too. So I can relate.
Yeah, me too. I'm not gonna lie, but it just seemed very, very obvious. Like all of these different instances of people eating in a very unsightly way.
Yeah, very grotesque.
Yeah, and I think again it's Zweigoff's comment about just the. I don't know how to describe it.
I know. I know what you mean.
Kind of the baseness of American culture at times.
And it's fascinating too that it's not just any other character. It's Seymour. Seymour who's commenting on this, who is the stand-in for Terry Zwigoff. So what do you think he's saying? He's like, he's Terry Zwigoff and Seymour are like more woke, so to speak. But they're also consumers as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're also the victim.
Right. And we can talk about that maybe when when Seymour's wearing his new pants that day.
Sure. Okay.
But so Seymour's eating the fried chicken, and Enid comes in and is basically confronting him. She's like, "How come you never call me anymore? Are you trying to get rid of me? Aren't you even going to ask me how I'm doing?" So she feels hurt.
Yeah.
Possibly even jealous.
Yep. And definitely slighted, and because she's the one who kind of told him to go out with her, right?
Right.
And then
And
they
you can see her life, or at least her relationships, starting to get out of her control. So
right.
her relationship with Rebecca is broken. Her relationship with Seymour isn't what it used to be.
Uh-huh.
And she's kind of getting, she's not really in his life like she used to be.
Yeah, and this is where they meet. She meets Dana, right, for the first time.
Yes.
And then you can tell like Seymour's awkward. He like spills over his cup. He's just like almost like hiding. It's like a dirty secret that he's hiding.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a very contentious meet between them as well. Does anything happen in that scene? They just meet and they exchange kind of little superficial pleasantries, and Enid leaves, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She said some sarcastic remarks about, how close they are and this and that.
Oh yeah, I'm an old friend of. I'm surprised he hasn't mentioned me, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Next scene.
Next is where the art teacher recommends Enid for a scholarship. This is kind of like the last day of class. The art teacher saying goodbye to class. And in a funny scene, she breaks that one kid's art piece.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I hope all of you will be taking something away from the class. And,
yeah.
Funny scene.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, so things are looking bright in at least one way for
yeah.
while the rest of her life is
again it echoes the comic that how she has she in the comic her dad applied her to Strathmore, and she's like taking this test, like equivalency test or something, and that's what kind of Rebecca's mad about, because she's like learning all these new words, and she's like, she gets mad when she's like using her newfound vocabulary in kind of condescending ways. But yeah, is this the jean scene next, or?
Yes,
okay.
The jean scene. Where'd you get those pants?
It's kind of nice, have somebody. I have to think about. I don't think about what to wear. You just.
You did a good job of like channeling the characters. It's great.
Thanks. he looks so weird in those jeans, though. I gotta admit.
And going back to the point you were making before, how even like the best of us, Seymour, the champion for,
misanthropic,
meaningful culture, he's giving into this, and he's buying into this modern way of life.
Is this the scene also where he mentions how she gave him something from when they went shopping? It'll go with all of his old timey thingamabobs, or is that later?
That's a good question. I think that's.
Oh, when she comes over.
A little later.
Oh yeah, when she comes over. Yeah.
Yeah, when she comes after
the art show
at the art contest.
Yeah. So yeah, she comes over and
And she does she come over because she's inviting him to go to the art show, but
that's right.
Go.
Yeah. And he's just like, I don't think that's such a good idea.
She leaves alone again, sad because Seymour doesn't have time for her. And she talks to Norman. She says something like, "You're like the only person in the world that I can count on." So, her world's kind of unraveling, but Norman is a steady, I don't know, person.
Yeah, it's a rock. He's a rock.
Yeah,
but not for long, because he's gonna leave soon.
Right.
He says. He's getting on the bus.
Yep.
Which apparently isn't supposed to be running, but is this where we see the Maxine character next in with Enid's father?
Yes.
Yeah, so Terry Garr plays Maxine. In the comic, it's supposed to be Carol, but apparently it's like one of his exes or ex-wives or something. And
Yes.
she's you know, conveniently condescending as well. Just I like to see I like to think that had some part in how you grew up, how you turned out. Like I'm taking a remedial arts class for fuck ups and losers. She's just like
Apparently, Terry Garr and the actor that plays
Bob
Amy's
Balaban.
dad, that they were husband and wife in 2 other movies. I guess like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. They were
okay.
husband and wife, and there was some other movie where they were husband and wife. I forget.
Well, no, Terry Garr was the Richard Dreyfuss wife,
Okay.
yeah. But Bob Balaban was also in that movie as well.
Okay.
He's like one of the scientist officers or whatever.
Oh, that's right.
Good catch, though. Yeah.
I was just when I was reading something, I saw that. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Rebecca and Enid have a fight when they go to look for an apartment, and then Enid's crying on her bed. Yeah, and that's when her dad tells her that Maxine's moving in, just to heap on another reason to cry and be sad.
The hits keep on piling on, right?
And then she finds out that the teacher has to give her a non-passing grade because of what happened at the art show, which we didn't really talk about what happened at the art show, but
yeah, a bunch of parents were mad about the Cook's Chicken Inn portrayal.
Right, and then there was a photographer from the weekly there, and he took pictures of it, and it was a big story in the weekly newspaper, and so a lot of bad press. And so she was forced to not give her a passing grade, which probably disqualified her from that scholarship.
Yeah.
And so she goes to Seymour's house, and she said, I just need someone to be nice to me for 5 minutes, and then I'll leave. But she stays for longer than 5 minutes.
Yeah. This is also where the you see that horse thingy, right? And then
yeah, this is where the horse thing
you see
comes into play.
the old timey thingamajigs.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, she sounds great.
Yeah, and she wants to find something to drink, so she finds a bottle of champagne, and she was like, oh, that's Dana's, that's for our 2-month anniversary. I'm saving it for her, or something like that.
Yeah, she just pops
Dana
it open.
doesn't care. She just pops the top off. And
You could tell like all of Seymour's reactions too. He's like, oh my god, like he's like so annoyed by this obnoxious girl now. Whereas before, he at least.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, whereas before he, kind of took her under his wing and like, helped him out, and then now he's just kind of over her.
Yeah.
But yeah, they get to talking. They're both a little drunk,
and she's like, maybe I shouldn't just move in with you. I can clean and this and that.
Yeah, and then she's like, how come all this time I was trying to find you a date, you never asked me out? And then he's just like, another thing that echoes the comic, when Enid comes over sad about the fight with Rebecca. In the comic, she goes over to Josh's place, and she's like, she kisses him, and Josh is like, you must have known how I felt. You must have known how I felt about you all this time, which is exactly, what they do for Seymour's character. Made to seem like, oh, he liked her all this time, but never had the courage to tell her. And then they sleep together, and it pans down to that old timey thing about Bob, where riding the horse.
Right.
Very cool visual cue there.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the where the critics ripped Terry Zweig off. 45-year-old having sex with an 18-year-old. They claimed it as wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
Zweigoff was pretty mad about that. But yeah, it's a nice tender moment. We get to see them afterwards. You can tell Enid's like, "Oh shit, what did I do? This is a mistake."
And you could
Seymour's
see that
like,
Seymour's actually
like spooning her and like,
and making plans for the future, and yeah, they're in totally different headspaces.
it's just so embarrassing. I've been in that situation before. It's like, oh no, don't do that, Seymour. He's so
And
clueless.
Seymour now, in his mind, he's like, okay, it's going to be me and Enid. So Seymour goes to see Dana at work to break up with her. And before he breaks up with her, again, these characters, these mainstream characters, are just, like you said, that was a great word, a caricature. It's like, Dana works at like a real estate office and they're closing a deal, and I'm assuming it's her boss. He's like this, got this plastic smile on, and just the way he talks and moves, and his mannerisms are just so, yeah, just so plastic and fake and cheesy.
Yeah. This is where he comes to break up with her. Yeah, it's an interesting scene. It's just like you can tell he's never breaking up with anybody before.
Yeah.
I'm always the one being dumped. So.
And then after Enid goes to talk with Rebecca, she says that she's sorry. And then this is just where everything just kind of snowballs. So
Yeah, and it's wrapping up as well.
Right. Seymour gets in trouble for that painting for the Coon Chicken sign, and so Enid, it starts moving really fast, and then Enid is going to go back to moving in with Rebecca, so she's packing things up. But then you could tell that Enid's going through a lot in her mind. And so Enid's supposed to show up at the apartment at like 12 o'clock, or I forget what time that her and Rebecca set up, but she doesn't show up. But Seymour shows up looking for Enid, and Rebecca reveals to Seymour that Enid thinks that he's a big dork, and she shows him Enid's sketchbook, and Seymour feels betrayed and hurt.
And before this, really quickly, I love the scene where I don't know if this happens before, but the scene where he's like watching TV and waiting for Enid's phone call. That happens before, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it was really funny the way he's just like, we've all been there before, waiting for a phone call. And then he can't even pay attention to whatever's on the TV, like whatever they say, the musical act. He's just like, oh god. He's like switches off the TV with his foot, and Joe comes in, such words of encouragement. He's like, maybe she found another boyfriend. And just like proceeds to fart, flatulent noises. I thought that was a hilarious scene. He's like, thanks a lot. Thanks for your advice there, buddy. Kick me while I'm down.
Hilarious.
Yeah, so Seymour's on the warpath. He's like, and then he sees a sketch of how he drew Seymour like as a pathetic loser, like waiting in that diner, waiting at Wellsville, and then he sees a picture of her depicting Josh, how he's like all these colors, and he's like means the world to her kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's like, he gets really pissed, goes to the Sidewinder, looking to beat up Josh, but doesn't really happen like that, right? He's
yeah, he's trying to like shove or push over the shelf, and
yeah,
barely budges, and then
you think that's funny? Did you have a good laugh? Did you have a good laugh at my expense?
And then Doug comes over to
Right, with the nunchucks.
Yeah.
Pretty much puts him in the hospital.
Yeah. And then Enid goes to see Seymour at the hospital and explains how she really feels. And she says, "You're like my hero." And she goes to show pages in her sketchbook that Seymour didn't bother to get to because he was just so filled with jealousy and rage when he saw
Right.
her first picture of him and then the picture of Josh. But yeah, sees that, she really did see him as a friend that she cared about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the last interaction that we see with Enid and Seymour, and it's kind of heartwarming.
Yeah, it sets that relationship right. It ends it in a good place. And then after that, when she leaves the hospital, Rebecca's waiting for her, so they must have gone together. And their relationship gets reconciled too. There's a shot of them holding hands while they're sitting on the bench. So in Enid's life, those two relationships have been repaired and are in
and it's a great
better place.
Yeah, it's a great way to resolve it. Like, they're not going to be friends forever. They're childhood friends, and we all know people grow, and we can't all be friends forever. We move on, we grow, and that was a great way to articulate that. Like, they knew, like, you tell they didn't need to lay it on thicker with more dialogue. You could just tell in their reactions, their faces, that they understood each other. He understood that they're on different paths, and like you said, they're just content, and they've resolved it in their own way, right?
Right. And so this sets up the ending. You see Enid with some kind of suitcase or luggage walking down.
Yeah, well, before that, you see her watching Norman get on the bus.
Oh, yes,
and then,
yes. How could I forget
and
that?
then,
exactly.
And it fades to black. And with the great, we always talk about the soundtrack, but the David Kite, or I don't know how you pronounce it, but the David Kite score is very like understated, like a nice melancholy piano score, right?
Yes.
So it's a very entrancing score. I love it. Underscores the melancholy of all the entire emotional portion of the film. And
it's a very interesting mixture of humor and sadness.
And poignancy.
And where did I read it? Terry Zwigoff had said something pretty much to that effect. Where did I see that? So, in the screenplay, there's like an introduction by Terry Zwigoff, and he says, shoot, you might have to...
No, don't worry. Take your time.
Edit this. Yeah. But yeah, he said something to the effect of kind of this dual mood.
Yeah.
How they were really shooting for kind of like a funny movie at times, but kind of a sad or dark. Oh darn it! Where did I find it? Sorry.
No worries.
I don't know if we'll be able to find it. That's okay. Skip that part.
Okay. So yeah, the bus comes and takes her away. She gets her wish to start over in another city, disappearing. It's a very what's the word? Art house ending, kind of open to interpretation. Very the review from the booklet from Criterion mentions it as transcendental, like a transcendental style in film. I love that word. I love that description. sums it up perfectly. She is off on her own, like she needs to find herself still, which every young person can relate to. We always need, something to push us forward, and she's obviously been outgrown her relationship with Rebecca, outgrown her relationship with her father. She doesn't want to live with Maxine anymore. Um, it's just another chapter of her life that she needs to move on from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was just a brilliant ending. I thought it was over when she saw Norman walk away, take off in the bus when it faded to black. But then we almost get like that epilogue where she gets on the bus and leaves forever. Who knows? Finn. The end.
What was your take on the title? And I don't know if Danielle Klaus has commented on the meaning of the title, but
all right. So needless to say,
question.
Yeah, this is going to be our wrap-up portion of the show. Yeah, Ghost World, interesting. I think of the song Ghost Town by The Specials.
Okay.
But something along those lines, it's like everyone in society is kind of going through the motions. They're ghosts, they're zombies, right? They're just mindless consumers, just going through the motions of life. And the Enid and Rebecca are only two living beings in this ghost world, right? I don't know, that might be a little too literal, but that's how I've always felt it as. In the comic, it's this person who sprays graffiti all over town writing Ghost World, which they kind of mention at the end of the comic. She catches him, and then he says something meaningful. I forget. I cannot for the life of me remember, but the comic ends a little different too. I quickly want to point out that she finally, because she's in the comic, she's been tracking Bob Skeets, the kind of palm reader, and he finally tracks him down. He sees him. She sees him along like the beach, and she reads her palm and gives her a reading and says, I see darkness in your life, something along those lines. It's very melancholy the way he says it in the comic, but it's unclear, like he sees like a dark fading woman, something like that, but it's really kind of ominous in the comic. So I don't know what you want to interpret from that in the comic.
I would agree. It's a lot about modern society, modern culture, maybe specifically American culture, losing its soul, where a lot of it's just kind of like blind, mindless consumerism, but even like the pop culture, the movies, the sports, the music, it's just very trite and not very meaningful or soulful. And how society, the world is losing its soul, its sense of being.
Everyone's living in a ghost world, right?
Yeah, but I always thought it was a great title. It was a very evocative title.
Yeah, strange title to see on a group on the cover with two teenage girls. It's like, is this a horror movie? But it looks like it's like a comedy.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So we should wrap it up. We've gone on a little long here, almost 3 hours. We could talk about this for 3 more hours, I'm sure, but I wouldn't want to put you through that, Edwin. But let me let's go for our final thoughts. And what do you think of its legacy? So, final thoughts and legacy.
think its legacy is profound in many ways. I think there was a time where Hollywood movies were very polished and formulaic, but this subverts a lot of those, archetypes. In other hands, this would have been, a teen movie, a teen comedy, in the typical sense. So I think subverting the typical genre of movies with teenagers, I think that's a lasting legacy. I think, like you said, having movies with such drastic moods might not have been so typical before this movie. This movie can be pretty gloomy, and I think the soundtrack and other cinematic elements lends a certain, like you said, melancholy, gloominess to it, but it's really funny and comedic at other times. I think aesthetic. I think a lot of people wish they could, have the outfits that Enid has, and I think, just the philosophical questions that it raises about culture and what it all means. I think that's pretty important.
Great. Still one of your all-time favorites?
Yeah, for sure. The casting, I couldn't imagine anyone else playing those roles.
Yeah.
It's probably, I think it's just about perfect casting, and it would be hard to imagine other people playing those roles.
Yeah.
And it's funny seeing, like Scarlett Johansson being catapulted into much different roles.
Right. I mean,
and
they said before.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, real quick. They said before that, that the studio said anybody but Scarlett Johansson, right? And then, it's so funny that now that she can just get any movie greenlit, just such a stark contrast to where she was.
Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, she's had much bigger roles, but this is my favorite movie that she's been in for sure.
Yeah, this and Lost in Translation are my two favorite ScarJo movies before she got big.
Yeah.
But yeah, I echo your sentiments. This classic, all-time favorite of mine. I quote it endlessly. Represents such a different time in my life. I was 18, 19 at the time, starting to, disassociate myself with everything commercial. Started digging for records that are less mainstream, right? A lot of samples, a lot of different genres, of selected genres, and I kind of developed that mindset of, I hate everything popular. I hate everything that's mainstream, like fuck society, and I just felt like Seymour so much after watching this film. It's just connected on it on such a fundamental level. I connected to the way he obsessively collected things because he couldn't connect with society, and it was just such a good time. It's so an interesting perspective to have on two teenage girls, right? And every, like you said, like teen movie out there is just like the prototypical like cheerleader or popular girl, or this is such a different demographic of subculture that we don't see on screen a lot, and it's so great to see it portrayed. I think people are going to be dressing up as Enid and Rebecca for that Batgirl mask was going to be iconic. Um, yeah, it's fascinating to think of myself now. I'm a little bit less misanthropic, if that makes any sense, which is kind of weird because I'm older, but I think I maybe got into more popular stuff as a way of. I think it's full circle, right? It's like I was anti pop, now I'm anti pop. You know what I mean? Does that
Sure,
make
sure.
sense? So, you know me, I'm into like K-pop now, but K-pop is a different beast because it's like there's a novelty to it, because it's foreign.
Sure.
I'm into like popular music on the Billboard charts, but for other reasons, um, I want to know the industry as a DJ, right? As a popular DJ. But
Sure.
yeah, it's fascinating to visit this film and revisit that time in my life. It'll still be a staple of my youth, and it was such a great time to revisit it and talk about it with you. Like I said, we could talk about this endlessly. Yeah, I think it still has a legacy. Like, wow, like people are gonna be like, how does a movie like this, made on such a minuscule budget, um, released by United Artists, which I don't even know is around anymore. Um, yeah, it's such a cultural, not a cultural phenomenon, but like still a good place in history.
Yeah.
Um, Very fascinating to see how it has evolved. And Daniel Klaus, I don't know what to make of. They haven't made a movie since Art School Confidential. I know Daniel Klaus did well. I don't know if he had anything to do with it, but they adapted Wilson. I wonder what happened to him. They didn't make any more movies after that. But it's hard to imagine Terry Zwigoff flourishing in this studio system, seeing as how he's you know, so misanthropic, right?
Right. And you know what? Maybe he'll make more movies in the future, but if he didn't make any more movies, having made Ghost World and, I know Bad Santa and Crumb have their legions of fans as well. He will have left behind.
Right.
So,
Have you seen Art School Confidential?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay. Obviously, you probably didn't have strong enough feelings for it as Ghost World, right? But
Oh, yeah, definitely not.
it's pretty much just the art school part of Ghost World expanded into a feature, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it does get into a weird tonal shift towards the end as well, like becoming kind of like a whodunit, right? Murder,
Yeah,
murder
yeah.
mystery. But that's for another topic. We should end this here because we've talked about it long enough. Just
Right.
want to thank you, Edwin, for joining me on this.
I had a great time. Thank you
Yeah,
for always asking me to do these.
yeah. Thank you for all your great insights. And if you guys want to find more episodes of our High Fidelity podcast, you can find us on highfidelitytv.wordpress.com, and also find us on High Fidelity TV podcast on Instagram. Let us know. We might be doing who knows what other record related movie we'll do next. I was thinking either Empire Records or Almost Famous, something like that. So if you guys are listening have any suggestions, just let us know on our Instagram. What movie would you recommend, Edwin? I know you mentioned like Pretty in Pink, right? Because it takes place in a record
but
store.
I guess there isn't definitely, from the soundtrack alone. But I'm trying to think.
Movie like Scratch?
Scratch, sure. Trying to think of what else. I don't know if have you ever seen Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater?
No, 80s movie?
Like 90s,
Okay.
maybe that one. That had a great soundtrack.
Okay, yeah, it would be interesting to watch a movie I've never seen before. We'll think of something, but you guys
Okay.
let us know. Thank you again, Edwin, for joining me.
All right.
Cool, and we'll see you guys
Thank
next
you.
time.
Okay. See you, Joseph.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
जान पहचान हो जीना आसान हो जान पहचान हो जीना आसान हो